Uh,
So
I moved it out of my ear a little bit, so hopefully it'll
I
be
can't get it to stay in.
okay. Oh no, I'm not worried about staying in.
I can't get mine to stay in.
It's the whole being able to hear without it being muffled
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I hear that.
All right, if you guys are ready, we're going to start this show in just about 30 seconds. Awesome. It'll be a little opening animation, Haley. Then I'll
Which
cue you.
camera am I looking at to start?
Sorry?
Which camera am I looking at to start?
Camera 2, which is
Okay.
she's your 2 shot, and
Yeah.
Andy's single is on camera 1.
Okay.
We're all counting on you.
Don't let the team down, Haley.
Do I hear like Mike?
And go, Haley.
Off of college football season, and today we are live at Gurney's Resort in beautiful Newport, Rhode Island, where players and coaches from around the American Athletic Conference have gathered to give us a closer look at their teams heading into the 2017 season. I'm Haley Outen alongside college football analyst Andy Grush. We are so happy to have you with us, and we have a whole lot in store for you today. Andy, I don't know about you, but just seeing the hustle bustle around this room, media filing in, players filing in, it's kind of starting to feel like college football season.
Yeah, it definitely is, Haley. And look, whenever you start to get to media days and you hear them happening all around the country, we get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start. And this is the first chance that we get to scratch the itch each and every college football season. Newport's a great host for the American Athletic Conference. And look, it's shaping up to be another huge year in the league.
Well, let's take a look at what's to come all day long today. We're going to reveal the preseason poll here in just a couple of minutes, but at 9 a.m. Eastern, Commissioner Mike Oresco will address the media. Then following his remarks, we'll be joined here right behind us by Vern Lundquist. He'll be moderating 2 coaches panels today. We're also going to have live interviews with coaches and players throughout the day. There's so many hot topics to choose from today, Andy, but first let's talk about the campaign that has sparked quite a bit of conversation across the country. The American has launched and implemented all things Power 6. You see it right here on this helmet. In your opinion, why does this league deserve to be in that conversation?
Well, when you look at the Big Six bowl games in terms of the New Year's Day Six, we know that the American Athletic Conference is one of the conferences that are always involved. And you get to the point to where, whether it's UCF, whether it's USF in the conversation, this league puts someone in the middle of that, the crux of the conversation every year, from Houston on down. There are big name coaches in this league, and I think what you've seen, and I know we're going to get to the new coaches in the league in just a little bit, but as you see the turnover, you see the reinvestments in programs, and look, there are some who are saying it just isn't good enough. We need to keep up with the Joneses. And I think when you can have a league that's 1 through 12 committed to football, and you've got some programs like, let's say, for example, the University of Connecticut, where they may be down a little bit, but they bring in a guy in Randy Edsall who has been there. They know what works. And I think every program is trying to not only find their way, but find their way to consistency. And when you have a league where you can't necessarily be consistent every year, to me, it goes to show the strength of the conference overall.
And you just touched on it, but one of the reasons that the commissioner feels so strongly about this conference being in that Power 6 conversation is the strength of the head coaches in this league. I mean, you look at where some of the head coaches have gone off to. I mean, they're going to, I think, what some would consider dream jobs. I mean, Tom Herman to Texas, Matt Rule to Baylor, Willie Taggart to Oregon. I mean, those are the top jobs out there. And so, Andy, my question for you is, you look at the new head coaches in the league, there's 5 of them this year. Which coach are you most excited to see what they can accomplish in year 1?
Look, for me, it's Charlie Strong. And you mentioned about Tom Herman going to Texas, and Charlie Strong comes over to USF. Look, USF, they're loaded. They've got returning starters on both sides of the football. And the thing about Charlie Strong that I really appreciate is he has stayed true to himself, almost to his detriment at the University of Texas, and he gets a chance to walk into a program that might be a sleeping giant. Look, forget all of the rumors that are out there, all the alphabet soup with all the different conferences and different schools and, you know, USF, UCF, they can go here, there, and everywhere. Look, the bottom line is this is not only a great job, this is a job that I think a guy like Charlie Strong, after having gone to Louisville and to Texas, can really settle into and be here for a long period of time. They have everything they need there to, in my opinion, win a national championship. So for me, it's what does he do with an 11-2 football team to try to get them to the next level? And I give you the other guy that's on the radar. For me, it'd be Major Applewhite, because what Tom Herman did at Houston in just 2 seasons was put that program on the map. He made them nationally known, but more importantly, they played a fun style of football. And I think nowadays, let's face it, we're in the video game age, okay? I ain't that old, you definitely ain't old, but when you're playing the video games and the kids are like, oh, wide open offenses, throw the football, I'm gonna go play somewhere that's fun. To me, that is Houston, but those are big shoes to fill with Tom Herman leaving. So those are 2 coaches for me that are on the radar, Charlie Strong and Major Applewhite.
Well, good thing for these coaches is that they have some pretty talented players on their side, and one of the players getting a ton of buzz heading into the 2017 season is USF quarterback Quentin Flowers. He's in the Heisman Trophy conversation. He broke more records last year than I think most could count. But why is Flowers one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the country that we're going to see this fall?
Well, you look at kids who can throw the football, Haley, and then you look at guys who can throw the football and who can run. And that's where Quentin Flowers really sets himself apart. He's the returning AAC Offensive Player of the Year, but he was 3rd in the league in rushing as well. And when you're a dual threat, look at him tuck that ball down and turn into running back mode. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the biggest dog in the fight. But you see wide open wide receiver, he puts it on, and there's some movement in the pocket right here. Rolls to the right. Love to see him take care of the football a little bit more. But you can see the natural running skills for a guy like Quentin Flowers. And then that long speed. You know, sometimes quarterbacks can be evasive. They can slide out of the pocket, give themselves room to be able to throw. And then there are guys who have the ability to run through contact like he did right there. And he's not afraid to put the shoulder down and run over someone if he has to. Great throw right there out of the center of the pocket. So again, back to USF. What is Charlie Strong going to do? How is he going to make Quentin Flowers a better football player? Hey, I think you say you just turn them loose, quite honestly, and you see the numbers right here. Look at those rushing yards. That's what sets him apart. And you see 7.7 yards per rush, the ability to run through contact. When you're producing over 40 touchdowns in any level of college football, I don't care where it's 1, 2, or 3, you are obviously a productive player, but you're an impact guy because you're dual threat.
Now, Andy, looking at these numbers and looking at what he accomplished last season, I mean, his numbers were up there with the likes of Lamar Jackson. This is a guy who's getting Heisman Trophy buzz. What does he have to do to get that invite to New York City?
Well, I think it's obviously you try to run the table, you try to win the league, but wherever the big game is on the schedule, and there will be that big national crossover game for USF and for a lot of teams here in the American Athletic Conference. Look, I think he'll play well in the league as he did last year. But what happens on a big stage? And look, a lot of time with the Heisman Trophy, it's are you in the right place at the right time? And do you have the big performance against the right team where a lot of eyeballs have the ability to see it? I think a fast start as well. Normally, Heisman winners get off to that big start in September. Rarely do you have, like, say, a Charles Woodson when he won it a bunch of years ago, where people had to figure out, okay, how do I quantify his value on defense? How do I quantify his value on special teams? Well, with Quentin Flowers, it's going to be different. It's going to be out of the chute right away, where he's going to be able to impress voters and get on people's radars. And let's face it, you know, we're talking about the American Athletic Conference as a Power 6 league and the sixth of the Power 6. I think this campaign for the conference also helps kids like Quentin Flowers to get on the radar much more quickly.
Well, the media certainly took Quentin Flowers into account when voting in this year's preseason media poll. Let's take a look at it. I know that's what everybody's wanting to see, where their teams are going to fall here in 2017. Let's take a look at the predictions. This is how the media thinks it's going to play out. Let's take a look at the West first, Andy. Tulane under second-year head coach Willie Fritz picked to finish 6th. SMU, who just missed bowl eligibility last season, comes in at number 5. Then this is where the West becomes very unpredictable, I would say. Certainly could have gone a number of ways, but a 10-win Tulsa team from last season picked to finish at number 4, while the defending West Division champs come in at number 3. Houston at number 2, and then the favorite to play in the championship game under second-year head coach Mike Norvell is the Memphis Tigers. Now looking at the East, Randy Edsall returns to the helm at UConn with his Huskies at number 6. East Carolina picked to finish 5th. Cincinnati at number 4. The defending conference champs again. Temple at number 3. UCF, quite the improvement last season, picked to finish 2nd this year. And then USF coming in at number 1, picked to be the overall favorite in the American Championship game. Andy, any initial surprises off the bat for you looking at this poll?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of a little bit of disrespect for Navy. I mean, Navy's good every year. What do they have to do to be able to get more of the media votes, especially when last year they have the change at quarterback and then another change at quarterback because of injuries, and we still see them competing for conference championships. So for me, it's Navy being down on that list. I understand people loving on Memphis, and I know we're going to get to them in a little bit. Obviously, Houston's got the high profile. But for me, it's Navy that really stands out. And, you know, you mentioned a Tulsa team that did a great job last year in getting to double-digit wins. Look, I think it's to the strength of the West of this American Athletic Conference where they're going to be pushed down a little bit. But that's what we talked about. Why does this league deserve their spot? Well, look at some of the depth, especially on the west side of the bracket.
Well, just talking to members of the media last night at the Clam Bake, I don't think anybody really voted the same. It was all over the place. So it's
Wait,
really...
people weren't just paying attention to lobsters and all that stuff that was going on? You actually got people to engage in football conversation?
You know, I'm giving them a lot of credit, but they did take a small break from their meals to talk some football. There was some good conversations, though, I'll say. But I mean, I'm not kidding you. It was all over the map, all the way from the top to the bottom. Easy games, that's for sure. We're going to dive into all 12 teams throughout the course of this day, but let's go ahead and look a little closer at the 2 favorites to win their respective divisions and play in that championship game December 3rd. From the West, it's Memphis. Now, Andy, Mike Norvell, he had some really big shoes to fill last year. Justin Fuente left for Virginia Tech. He put that program in great position, but Mike Norvell, he goes 8-5 in his first season as a head coach. He had to replace a guy like Paxton Lynch as well, so we weren't really sure what was going to happen there at the quarterback position, but how difficult is it to have that great of a year in your first season as the head coach with some question marks?
Well, I think when you walk in the door, it's what do we have walking in? And Riley Ferguson right there had an absolutely fantastic year. And again, for as much as we talked about the USF quarterback and the ability to be a dual threat, Riley Ferguson is a guy who's going to stand in the pocket, and he's pretty much got huge, not a big ability to be able to move and run around. However, you can get him into the end zone on the run and the goal line, which is what you got to have nowadays in college football. But I thought Mike Norvell came in to a situation, holy cow, we got a lot of guys on this roster. How do we find a way to make them better? And their return game with Tony Pollard there last year, who's the special teams player of the year in this league. People devalue kick returns all the time unless you got a great kick returner. Then it becomes a field flipper and a big part of your game.
Now, one of the guys that Riley Ferguson has a huge offensive weapon for him to go to is wide receiver Anthony Miller. This guy flies a little bit under the radar, but man, he is impressive to watch. And I think the key is that Riley does have some really good guys to go to between Tony Pollard and Anthony Miller.
Well, when you have a guy who can catch almost 100 balls as Miller did, he had 95 last year. And really, how do you determine number one wide receivers? They get in the end zone. And that's a big thing for me, is that 14 touchdowns last year for Anthony Miller, guy who gets in the end zone. What it does is it forces people to roll coverage. It allows you to dictate different things with scheme. When you have a guy who can catch the ball in all parts of the field, which Miller can, but again, you're worried about him getting to the end zone, it opens up that intermediate to short stuff, and it makes your quarterback's life easier. We think so much about big plays now in college football, when really it's still about moving the chains and getting first downs, and then boom, you have the chance to take your shot, and you hope your guys get open and your quarterbacks can make the throw, or it turns into a big run and a guy can take it to the house. But Miller obviously has to step up. But hey, I think even Memphis knows they need other guys behind Anthony Miller to be able to jump in to help make Riley Ferguson an all-league candidate once again. And the thing that jumps out right there, if I can jump to the quarterback for a second, 32 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions. When you're playing 13 games, maybe 14, depending on how the schedule breaks down, or if you're in the playoff, you only throw in 10 interceptions, and you're fifth in the country in forcing turnovers. That's a combination of winning a lot of games.
Well, and I think most of those interceptions came towards the beginning of the season. Riley Ferguson was a guy you saw him progress throughout the course of the year, gain some confidence, become a leader on this team. So he was always kind of moving forward, and for everything I've heard and read about him, he's definitely made some progress in the offseason, so it will be exciting to watch him.
And let me jump on that, too, because I think early in a year, when you have a new coach and you're installing a new offense, there's a way that head coach wants things done. So you can practice it, you can mock it up, but you need game speed. You got to get out there to make the kind of mistakes so that you can be coached up. And I think it's a good point. Early on there was the adjustment, I think, in terms of everyone settling in. But now that you've had a quarterback with 1 year in the offense, now Mike Norvell's got the ability to install the rest of his offense, have the ability to put in certain packages, and to be able to layer the offense and add what they couldn't do last year. And that really begins with your quarterback, because at the end of the day, if the call comes in that's a bad call, quarterback's got to get you out of it. So it starts with the knowledge of the quarterback, and then the comfortability of the head coach to continue to add layers to the offense to make it different for opponents.
So Memphis has a really tough schedule this year. We talked about the West Division and how tough that's going to be. There are no easy games there, but then out of conference too. I mean, they have UCLA. They do have them at home, which is nice. But for Memphis, they are the most veteran team in the conference. They're the most veteran team in the country when it comes to returning starters. How valuable is that experience going to be with the tough schedule that they have? And I mean, this is going to be a long season.
There's no doubt about it. And look, it's on the radar now. You knew Memphis was good, but now you know they're good under a new head coach, and you have a new quarterback to be able to prepare for.
Here comes that schedule.
When I mentioned the layering and the additions to the offense, that's why it's important, because people have a year to be able to break you down. Now, again, it's Louisiana Monroe. Then, hey, you're right into conference play. So you get a warm-up, and then it's okay, we're going to play one of the better teams in the league. We had a great year under Scott Frost last year in Central Florida. And then you mentioned the big one against UCLA. And then you settle in with Southern Illinois, Georgia State, and then you're back to conference play, going to Rentschler Field. Look, you don't know what kind of weather you're going to get, so it's never fun to go up there. And then you get Navy in Houston. And in a lot of ways, you could say that's the gauntlet for them. Going to UConn, again, it's just a tough place to go play. And then you get Navy in Houston. And then that back end of the schedule, I think they might be able to get right, so to speak. And look, based on the way that the league voting went, or that the voting went in terms of the East and the West, it would say that Memphis should be in good shape. down the stretch. But I think UCF, UCLA, those are two big ones. And then in particular, the Navy, Houston, those two clusters, those are arguably their four most important games of the year.
All right, well, we will be joined by Memphis head coach Mike Norvell and quarterback Riley Ferguson here in a little bit. But, Andy, let's move on to the East now. The favorites to win the whole shebang this year, USF. Charlie Strong takes over as the head coach, comes from Texas, but you know, the American is a little bit of a familiar place for Coach Strong. He was here in the first year of the league at Louisville. It looks a little bit different now, but how do you think that familiarity is going to come into play for Coach Strong?
Well, I think Charlie Strong's a guy who's been around. He's been everywhere. He's been in the SEC. He's coached in the Big 12. This is a guy whose hand is stamped, and he can pretty much be prepared for everything. As we mentioned, he gets a quarterback in Quentin Flowers, who he's a plug-and-play, obviously, player, and how in the world can Charlie Strong make him better? That, to me, is going to be the key. That and defensively are going to be the keys to see where USF is going to go. And look, I think there's some familiarity. I think, again, it's a place where he can be comfortable. When you go to a monolith like a Texas, where the pressure is constant, you can win 10 games and it not be good enough there. Whereas if you win 10 games at USF, you're going to have a job for a long, long time because you're going to be competing for conference championships. And the one thing that I want to see Charlie Strong do is to help this defense get better. When you look at USF defensively, they held only one opponent to under 20 points in 2016, but when you extrapolate it out a little more, they gave up 20 to Towson, who is a CAA team, 17 to Northern Illinois out of the MAC, 20 to Syracuse, where Syracuse is still trying to build that program in the ACC, and then Cincinnati, who we know ended up making a coaching change at the end of the year. A lot of the teams in the league were able to put up a ton of points. And I understand that some of it comes from a high-powered offense. You're going to have some turnovers and things are going to happen. So you're going to put your defense in a bad spot every once in a while. But there is a limit. It can't be giving up 50 points to teams. That's inexcusable, and I don't think that's really going to happen very much under Charlie Strong. So Flowers, the quarterback, has to improve, but defensively, they got to even out a little bit. They can't be trying to chase teams looking to score 55 and 60 points.
Now, for Charlie Strong, I mean, a lot of times when it's your first year as a head coach in a program, there's a lot of rebuilding to do, you know, trying to establish your culture and your style, but he inherits, I mean, one of the most talented groups in the country. So what kind of pressure does that put on Coach Strong in year one?
Yeah, I think compared to the pressure of the job that he just came from, it's nothing. I mean, really, it's almost like the pressure is off in a lot of ways because, again, 10 wins will be looked at very differently here at USF versus Texas because the fan base, it's not about understanding or having lower expectations. It's about being realistic. And I think Charlie Strong is a guy, look, I've only met him one time, but when you're around the guy, you know there is a presence there. And that, to me, is what leaders bring to the table. Do they have presence? And that's the first thing that stands out to you. He will be disciplined. He will be structured. He will operate the program in a way that USF and their administrators can be proud of first and foremost. Not that they weren't under Willie Taggart, but I think that's a big thing with Charlie Strong is he's strong, no pun intended, in his convictions. But he walks into a great situation. Quarterback, got some good defensive players. He's got defensive players at all three levels in terms of all conference. That's a huge, huge benefit because you've got guys that you can move around, and it's not just, well, we can't worry about a linebacker, we can't worry about a corner. Oh, well, here we go. We got an all-conference defensive tackle on the inside who can come in and make a big difference and get a push in the middle. So you got to be aware of where all their studs are at each layer of their defense.
So USF, the overwhelming favorite to win the championship this year. But ironically enough, I mean, this is a program that's had some hype around them the past couple of seasons, but they have yet to win the East Division, and they have yet to even make it to this game. So they're predicted to not only make it to this game this year, but to win it, Andy. So talking about, you know, the divisions and stuff, it seems like the past couple of seasons, they just lose that wrong game in the East that keeps them out of this game.
Well, last year it was at Temple, and it ended up burning them, and we know what happened with Temple, and Matt Rule has gone on to a different job, and Temple's going to be another one of those teams where you win a conference championship, and then you're turning over the head coaching position. And I think that you're right, and that's a great point. You know, that's why those league games become so important. You know, you can look at all the out-of-conference stuff all you want in terms of big picture and trying to get to a New Year's Six or trying to get into a playoff, but it's really about what they're going to do in the league for USF, and that's where they're going to make their hay. I think they're better than, I mean, to me, They're better than a lot of these teams in the East. You know, a lot of turnover in the East in terms of the coaching situations. So you've got teams that are going to be building, whereas USF, boom, they can be the monolith right away and come out and punch people in the mouth. And I think they have a great September. They're going to set the tone to get on the radar right away, because the one thing we know, Charlie Strong coach teams get noticed. And you go 3-0, 4-0 early on, they're going to jump on the national radar pretty quickly. They already are now, but I'm talking about a meteoric rise to where you're in early conversations for the down the road New Year's Six, and then maybe even a Final Four. And I know it ain't called the Final Four before people go crazy, but it's really what it is to me, the Final Four.
Well, let's take a look at USF's schedule and see what's coming up for them this year. And kind of a different situation for USF this season, as they are going to be the first college football game of the 2017 season. So they're literally going to kick this thing off for us out in California at San Jose State.
Well, and that's a tough trip. And yeah, they're better than San Jose State. I think they're winning that game, but still, it's your first road trip. And the one thing I like about that is it's before school starts. So you're focusing on football, you're going across the country. And what it does is it allows your coaching staff to bond with the players, because all you're doing is you're getting on a plane, you're going through practices, you're going through walkthroughs, you're in a hotel, you're getting ready to go beat somebody. It's a business trip. And I think it's good that it's not at home, because Charlie Strong has the ability to get the kids out on the road, let them know what it's going to be like under his structure in terms of when are the bed checks, when are bedtime, how are we going to operate on game day, all that stuff. On the road, you're not worrying about mom and dad, you're not worrying about waving to your girlfriend in the stands or none of that stuff. And then they take on Stony Brook, and look, here's the one thing about Stony Brook. If you take them lightly, they're a team like a USF where they'll come in and they can punch you in the mouth, and they've given some upper-level teams a little bit of trouble. But USF, clearly, I mean, they got a great quarterback, they got a great coach, they got a lot of carryover. They should have a great year.
Yeah, without question. And for USF, so when you look at, their schedule and kind of what they have ahead of them this year, I mean, they're predicted to be a preseason top 25 team, I think pretty safe to say. And when you look at this new alignment in college football and the Power Six campaign, I mean, this is a team that you would think should play in that New Year's Six game.
You would think so. And look, I think if you win this conference, and there's a reason why there is the push for the Power Six, because you win this league, you're going to get a seat with the supposed big boys. But every year, if you're in there with these supposed big boys, at what point are you considered a big boy? Because there's no other league in the country outside of the quote-unquote Power Five who has been able to crash the party, so to speak, the way the American Athletic Conference have, and then go play well and represent. It's not, well, we got there and then we got beat by 25 or 30 points and got our tails kicked. No, they're going there, they're winning games, they're playing competitive football. That's big in terms of making the statement for the league. And I know we're going to hear from Mike Oresco here coming up in a few minutes, and I'm sure that's going to be a part of the message that, hey, it's not we're trying to be a big boy. We are a big boy because we're there every year in the discussion and in that New Year's Six.
Well, that is exactly right. We're going to hear from the commissioner here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to take a quick break, but we have a whole lot in store for you today, so stick with us. 2017 American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. Napa has your back. It doesn't take a whole lot of know-how to understand that most guys don't like shopping. So the next time you need auto parts, visit NapaOnline.com to select your store and reserve your parts online. So when you get to the store, your order is waiting for you. Just pay and get on with your day. Reserve online at NapaOnline.com. That's Napa know-how.
Resco. So, it's my honor to bring up for his annual address the Commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, my dear friend, Mike Oresco.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Vern, for that extraordinarily kind introduction. Delighted to have you hosting our Football Media Day. We've been friends for many years. We all know that Vern is a national treasure. His iconic calls in a variety of sports will live forever in the sports pantheon. And as well as being one of the greatest announcers and a Hall of Fame announcer, incredibly warm and gracious human being, and I think you see that when you see him speak. The Vern you've seen on the air for many years is the Vern you'll always see in person. We welcome him. We're delighted to have him and his lovely wife, Nancy. We look forward to the sessions with Vern and our coaches and players that will follow my address. But before I get into my speech, I'd like to bring Vern back for a quick second because we're so pleased to have him, we wanted to show a token of our appreciation. And we have a couple of items. One, when our conference was founded 5 years ago, we developed an A, the American. It's something that we'd like to present to Vern in honor of him hosting Media Day. We also have a special gift. It's going to stay on the stage, incidentally. It's a P6 helmet. You all know our Power 6 campaign, and we've had all our coaches sign this for Vern. This will go in his study, and Vern's study is, I've been there, it's like a museum, believe me, because he's had such an astonishing career. But we'd like, Vern, you to have this. I do want it back, because I want it on the stage. Oh, okay. And then we'll give it to you afterward. Also, yesterday was Vern's birthday, and we have a little cupcake here. We had a lighter here, but I didn't want to do it.
Thank you.
I thought that better not.
You're only 75 short of the number of candles.
But happy birthday, Vern.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your graciousness.
And thanks so much for being here. I would like to thank Napa Auto Parts, which is sponsoring our media days, and its Connecticut president and general manager, Jeff Watson, and his team. We're grateful for and delighted with their support of our conference and of college football. I want to recognize a giant of the game who passed away earlier this year. The great Wayne Harden, coached at both Navy and Temple, was extremely successful at both places. He coached Roger Staubach at Navy and Steve Joachim and Joe Klecko at Temple. We were privileged to have Wayne conduct the coin toss at our football championship game last year between, quite fittingly, Navy and Temple. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some important individuals in our conference, as I do each year. Renu Couture, who ably chairs our conference's board of directors, has led the University of Houston to new heights. David Rudd, our vice chair, has done a great job at the University of Memphis. And kudos to our outgoing chair, Susan Herbst of UConn, who did a terrific job leading this conference and will continue her work as our conference's member of the NCAA Board of Directors. She replaces John Hitt of UCF in that role, and John did a wonderful job representing us in Indianapolis over his 4-year term. I would be remiss in also not recognizing Gerald Turner, the president of SMU, who represents our conference on the College Football Playoff Board of Managers, and who, as our past chair, was instrumental in building the foundation of this conference. Mark Harlan of USF serves as our athletic director chair, and Mark is one of the finest young athletic directors in the country. He has big shoes to fill, as East Carolina's Jeff Comfort did a fine job as our chair, provided inspired leadership for our league and wise counsel for me, and no doubt Mark will do the same. Tom Bowen of Memphis serves as our AD vice chair, has already served the conference in many roles over the years, including as our athletic director representative to the College Football Playoff. Tom is doing a remarkable job building Memphis into a powerhouse in all sports. Our presidents, athletic directors, senior women administrators, and faculty athletic representatives are the best in the business, and without their vision and commitment, this conference would not be where it is, could not have achieved so much success so soon. I enjoy working with them, look forward to many productive years ahead. I want to thank my outstanding staff, led by Donna DeMarco, whom I recently named our Chief Operating Officer, Scott Draper and Michael Costa for all their hard and intelligent work in football. Special thanks to Bernie Caffarelli, Chuck Sullivan, and Catherine Carmignani, and the entire communications and digital staff for organizing this terrific event. I want to thank Lisa Zanecchia, who many of you know, also for doing all the really difficult logistics for this event. I'd like to congratulate Scott Strasmeyer and Stacy Michaud from Navy, who were recognized by the Football Writers Association of America as one of the top media relations departments in the nation. Congratulations to them. A special welcome to Bill Hancock, who's done a phenomenal job with the College Football Playoff, making it a premier event instantly. We're pleased to partner with and support the CFP's Foundation's Extra Yard for Teachers initiative again this year. It's a worthy cause and has been championed by Bill in the college football playoff, and we're always delighted to have Bill with us. We appreciate the attendance each year of our guests from the college and media communities. I wish I could name all of you, but obviously I must limit myself. We thank ESPN, our primary rights holder, for its great promotion and coverage of our league. The Thursday and Friday schedules especially provide us unprecedented exposure, as you all know. John Skipper and Burke Magnus have championed us in our P6 campaign. Pete Durzis, who oversees all of ESPN's college sports, is a huge supporter of our conference and an old personal friend. Our friends at CBS Sports and CBS Sports Network are here. Dan Weinberg has been a huge champion, he and his staff. We thank them as well for all they do, and we thank Sean McManus and David Burson for their strong support and their enthusiastic and outstanding coverage of the league. They provide additional exposure and platforms that permit us to build our brand. Our consultants at Wasserman, Dean Jordan, and Tag Garson are helping us frame our television and media strategy in an increasingly complex but promising media environment. I say promising because despite all you've read about the doom and gloom, the cord cutting, there are platforms that are exploding all over the place, and I think the media outlook is actually a lot brighter than people will give it credit for. IMG works closely with us to develop relationships for our league, which are true partnerships in building our brand. And we welcome IMG's president of college sports, Tim Pernetti, and also Josh Reese, who oversees our sponsorships. I'm again pleased to welcome our bowl and other media partners who, partners who provide such strong support, and our friends in the media. You've treated us fairly. You've given us an opportunity to make our case, and I salute you for the great job you do. And it's a tough media environment these days. It's very tough with the print media struggling. You do a wonderful job under difficult circumstances. I also want to recognize Wright Waters of the Football Bowl Association, who has been instrumental in getting the bowl alignment right, and also making sure that the bowls are properly promoted. I hope all of you enjoyed the clam bake last night. Unquestionably, that's the highlight of our media days. I know today is anticlimactic after that. I believe we set another record for lobster tonnage consumed. I heard one player actually ate 10 lobsters, and one table consumed 10% of the entire lobster allotment, so that's quite an accomplishment. I think we have eyewitnesses, too, to that. Before talking about our conference's outstanding football, in which we all take such pride, I want to recognize the outgoing chair of the UConn Board of Trustees, Larry McHugh, who's done a great job for UConn in that role, but has also been a strong and early supporter of the American Athletic Conference. He holds a special place for me as he was my high school football coach many years ago. Quite a coincidence. It's a small world. As the coaches assembled here have done and are doing with their student athletes, Coach McHugh taught my teammates and me life lessons, including the value of hard work and dedication. You never forget your high school coach, you never forget your college coach, but you never forget what they taught you. As for the game itself, Coach, as a quarterback, I was not immune from blocking and tackling drills, I can assure you. But his words remain true today, and the coaches who stress fundamentals remain the most successful. This is a critical period for the American Athletic Conference, and we approach it with optimism and confidence. The conference is clearly on the cusp of great things, accomplishing so much already in our relatively brief history. We issued recently a strategic plan that will guide our efforts to be and remain a Power 6 conference that will provide us with benchmarks to measure our progress, that sets forth our priorities and emphasizes student-athlete health and well-being and providing them with educational and athletic opportunities at the highest levels. We recently added Wichita State University as a basketball and Olympic sports member, and we welcome them and Darren Boatwright, their athletic director, who was with us this week. They are a great addition, and they add tremendous stature to our league. When this conference was formed, many of you remember, in 2013, we were not sure what we had, what our impact on the national collegiate scene would be. But we were confident, we were determined and hopeful, and despite the headwinds we faced and the naysayers, I thought at the time we had good reason to be optimistic. We have schools that desire to compete at the highest levels. They've flourished in a strong, competitive, dynamic conference that receives terrific media exposure. Our schools have met with success, and they've built a Power 6 brand. I had no doubt they would in football, men's and women's basketball, and Olympic sports. Neither did our presidents and athletic directors have any doubt, despite the obstacles. We were not about to settle for anything less than excellence. Vince Lombardi once said that if you do not settle for anything less than the best, you will be amazed at what you can do, amazed at how much you can rise. Football is our focus today. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Temple, our 2016 football champion, and Navy, our West Division football champion. We had a memorable season in 2016. It will only get better. I'm extremely pleased, as you can tell, and gratified by our success over the past 4 years, and it was not predetermined. It was the result of hard and intelligent work by our administrators, coaches, and of course, the outstanding and determined players, many of whom you see here today. Owing to television deals that were cut before we achieved this prominence, we currently lack the financial resources of many of the other P6 universities, but we'll get there, and we have the will and we have the ability. We also have a pedigree. We have 6 schools that were BCS or Old Southwest Conference schools. And joining these schools with others that were yearning to compete at the highest level has created a powerful dynamic. This competitive dynamic has resulted in great success. 2 major New Year's Bowl wins, the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl, 19 P6 Notre Dame football wins over the past 2 years, wins over Penn State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Florida State, Louisville twice, Pitt twice, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Miami, numerous national award winners, and numerous highlights in our 4-year history. We had 15 players selected in the 2017 NFL Draft, 5th among the FBS conferences. Zay Jones of ECU set the NCAA season and career receptions records, and he broke the record set by ECU's own Justin Hardy a few years before. And the credit for all this, of course, goes to our excellent players who defeat heavy odds in the form of immensely challenging conference schedules and conference schedules that we play. Also, we salute our outstanding coaches who recruit intelligently and coach brilliantly, and to our administrators who hire and support these coaches and who intelligently marshal Luke Fickle at Cincinnati and Jeff Collins at Temple. We welcome you, and we look forward to the roundtable later when you join our other veteran coaches. Any anxiety over so many new coaches is easily dispelled by our conference's phenomenal record of hiring top assistants and established veterans who've invariably gone on to great success in our league. These coaches, new coaches, will no doubt do the same. They'll join our incumbent coaches to comprise as strong a group as any in college football. And I would be remiss if I failed to mention our outstanding officiating crews, ably led by Terry McCauley, who has refereed 3 Super Bowls in the NFL. They do a great job, and they're a great group of people as well. Accepted eventually as an autonomy Power 6 conference because we believe we are already a Power 6 conference. We can't do anything about the autonomy part of it at this point because that's legislative, but we're working on it. Correspondingly, we need and want a TV and media deal that recognizes what we've achieved and affords us the resources to continue to build the conference and to continue to compete successfully with the other Power 6 conferences in the ever-competitive college football environment. And make no mistake, we do not want simply to compete, we want to win. I again channel Vince Lombardi, who at his first meeting with his Packers team in 1959 said, "We will relentlessly chase perfection, knowing full well we will not achieve it because it is unattainable. But in the process, our TV partners, ESPN and CBS, have afforded us great exposure and professional support. We in turn have provided, and promotional support as well. We've provided them with an excellent product and many, many outstanding moments. We provided ESPN with its 2 highest Thursday night ratings this past year. Notre Dame Temple 2 years ago had 6 million viewers. It outrated an Ohio State-Penn State game on the same day the year before. The networks and the viewing public now know that we can compete and win against the best Power 6 competition. And as long as we continue to challenge ourselves and play top Power 6 opponents, we'll continue to provide great value to our media partners. We've engaged our devoted fans, our communities, our 2.6 million national alumni, and our TV viewers. The other Power 6 conferences increasingly see us as a peer conference and enjoy scheduling us. For example, we've begun to play Big Ten teams more than we have in the past. We're playing 3 Big Ten teams this year. 17 games are scheduled in the next several years, and we're working on scheduling more. Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney and I touch base from time to time. We're old friends as well, colleagues, And the Big Ten athletic directors respect our teams, directors. They consider them good opponents, which are building quality football programs. Our footprint overlaps with the Big 12, SEC, and ACC, and we also have a number of games scheduled with those conferences. And although the Pac-12 is more geographically challenging, we will be playing UCLA, Arizona, Stanford, among others, over the next several years. We've averaged 26 Power 6 games over the past 4 years, even more. This is ambitious, but we welcome the challenge. It will strengthen us further. I do want to pause, recognize Commissioner Delaney. He's a firm advocate for the well-being of student athletes, has been a strong advocate of a fair, transparent, and sensible football recruiting and compliance model. Without his efforts, the new comprehensive football recruiting model, which does include a December early signing period, might not have passed. It's not without its issues. It's not the entire answer, but it was needed. It's better than what we had. It demonstrates collectively that FBS conferences can get something important done. Our conference vigorously supported this comprehensive plan and Jim's advocacy of it, not only because it's good for us, supported the concussion protocols and the inter-association practice guidelines. We've supported time demand legislation and protocols, and our concussion education program is advanced. All this is designed to protect our student athletes. Football is a great game, a generational heirloom that has given us thrills over the many golden autumns going back almost 150 years. It's provided competition and tests of sacrifice and endurance for young men for generations, giving them a sense of teamwork and the rewards of hard work. It's an exciting game, fun to watch, it's extremely popular, arguably the second most popular sport in the U.S. next to the NFL. It's also a rough physical game, no denying that. We can make it safer, and we will. But we want to preserve it from those who attack it and would seek to eliminate it. With this country, would our young men who love this sport be better off without football? The answer is an emphatic no. We as human beings would never have accomplished anything if we had not taken risks and would not take risks. But we can minimize the risks and dangers and preserve the incredibly dynamic and enjoyable competition on the gridiron. I'm convinced of that. Steve Hatchell and the National Football Foundation have been in the forefront of efforts to preserve and enhance our great game. And again, I take the opportunity to applaud Steve and the NFF for their tireless and intelligent advocacy. Steve has a unique understanding of the headwinds football faces, and he's an educational resource for our conference and schools and an action agent in the fight for football's future. He's also recently elected to the University of Colorado Hall of Fame, so I'd like to congratulate him on that. America loves football, loves college football. As I mentioned, the second most popular sport next to the NFL, drives so much of the business of college sports. We as a conference have embraced football. Our achievements are remarkable. We've earned national respect, and as I mentioned, we have the commitment of everyone in our conference, and I couldn't be prouder of our efforts. As we continue to excel on the playing field, our student athletes continue to do great things in the classroom. Once again, we had a record number of student athletes, more than 2,300 named to the conference's all-academic team. Included in that group are 368 football student athletes, many of whom are here with us today. We had a record 16 individuals chosen as CASIDA Academic All-American. Institutions produced 2 Rhodes Scholars this year. Kirk Smith, a cross-country student athlete from Tulsa, and Lucinda Ford from Navy. Congratulations on the Academic Excellence Award in football for the second consecutive year. Cincinnati had 48 football players, the most in the conference, named to our all-academic team. Remarkable achievement. The accomplishments of these outstanding student athletes is in concert with some of the groundbreaking work being done at our schools through our conference's academic consortium, which funds 12 research grants for the 2017 academic year that will be focused squarely on student athletes' physical and emotional health and well-being. This research will be presented next April in Orlando at the Americans Research Symposium. We have a unique opportunity in this conference to be a national leader, and we're committed to advancing scholarly studies in this vital area. We likewise remain proud of the legacy of sportsmanship and citizenship that our student athletes are leaving at their schools, in their respective communities, a legacy reinforced by 12 outstanding head coaches who inspire their student athletes to set the standard for those qualities and for community service and outreach. I look around the room and I see terrific players, but more important, I see terrific young men who compete on the field and in the classroom and in a climate of compliance and sportsmanship. The season ahead is extremely promising, but it's extremely challenging. We play 18 games against the other Power 6 conferences, Notre Dame and BYU as well. Many against the best teams in those conferences: Michigan, UCLA, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, TCU, Georgia Tech, Missouri, and Arizona, among others. Our efforts, the foundations we have built, the improvement in facilities and best practices are paying off, and it gives me great pleasure to recognize and proclaim that here today. We stand today as a cohesive conference, a strong Power 6 brand, ready again to deliver excitement and top competition. I wish all of our teams great success this season. I applaud them and their coaches for their commitment and sacrifice. As the late, great Bear Bryant once said, the sacrifices players and coaches make are great, but the rewards are also correct again. Thanks again, and enjoy the sessions to come. Thank you.
From the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Oresco. And Andy, we kind of had
Thank
a
you,
feeling
Mike.
going into this, but the message was going to be all Power 6. And he mentioned that while he'll admit to the financial gap between the other five, but that he says that this league has the will and the ability to eventually get there.
Well, Haley, I think he hit on every talking point that you would want to in terms of pushing yourself into that group of five to make it a Power 6. And it's real simple. We're good, we're competitive, we're committed to football. We have institutions that are committed to making the programs as good as they can be. And he said we want our respect. And to me, that was the big message that I take away from the commissioner's speech today. We're here, we've established ourselves, now it's time for us to get ours eventually.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to be joined here on the set by the picks to win the West. It's Memphis head coach Mike Norvell and star quarterback Riley Ferguson.
Shaking hands at the end of the game, win or lose.
Competing at the best ability, but also at the end of it saying, great race and great job, and can't wait to see you in finals.
Somewhere there's someone who is looking up to me.
So it's not just trying to win the game or the match, but trying to become better people.
Being able to give someone eye contact and really genuinely say good job.
No matter how high the competition is, you are all competing for the same thing and one common goal.
When a ref makes a call that you don't necessarily agree with or might cause a dispute on the field, and it's important to remember that, just to control the controllables.
Without sportsmanship, you really lose what the game is all about.
So sportsmanship is important because not only as a student athlete do I affect my team, but at the same time I'm affecting every single person in the stands. I'm affecting every single little girl that's coming to the volleyball game to watch me. And I think as student athletes, our reach is so far. We don't realize how much we impact other people.
At the end of a game, having a good game conversation with the opponent, because they put a lot of work into the game as you have, and to show that respect and acknowledgement of the work that you've both put in is a big part of sportsmanship.
You have to respect the other team, the officials, but obviously cheer on your team in a respectable manner.
And I represent not only the university, but I also represent the American Conference, and I want to put my best foot forward.
Be proud of who you are and what you stand for.
Having good sportsmanship allows you to walk away from a win feeling like you really deserved it and you really earned it, not only by what you did on the court, but by how you conducted yourself. And everybody in that game that you played against is also going to say, you deserve that win. Not only did you outplay us, but you might have even outclassed them or, showed them that you're a good competitor.
Welcome back. We're live here at American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. We're now joined here on the set by the picks to win the West. It's Memphis head coach Mike Norvell and their star quarterback Riley Ferguson. Guys, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to join us today. We're going to talk some football, but Riley, I got to ask you, it's your first time in Newport. How have you been enjoying your experience so far?
It's been great here. I mean, I love the water, like I was just telling you. Later in my life, I hope to be on water one day, live on some water. So it's great being out here and, eat a little seafood. I don't get to eat much seafood. I'm from down south, so we don't get to eat much of that.
For you had a great season last year. Your first season at Memphis definitely drawed a lot of attention towards yourself heading into this year. What's the biggest difference for you heading into your second season?
Just being comfortable in the offense. Last year we came in with a new coaching staff as a whole, and I think we're going to, give ourselves position to be successful this season.
Well, let's go to Coach Norvell because Riley mentioned about learning a new system. Where are you at compared to this time last year to where you're at now in terms of Riley's play, which was stellar, but where your offense is at, buddy? If you ain't adding, you're falling behind.
Well, you know, it's we're night and day from last year at this time. It's not just on offense, but as an entire football team. The overall comfort of our players, coaches, trying to accomplish each and every day. You know, our football team, you see that in the way they work. You see that in their preparation. And so we're excited about the opportunity we have in front of us, and we're excited about getting started.
Now, I know I talked to you last year getting ready to head into first-year head coach at Memphis. What did you learn about yourself last year? How are you? Every coach talks about getting players better. How are you better as a football coach compared to last year?
Well, you know, you take those experiences and you try to go back and analyze the good, the bad, things that you'd like to, you know, kind of critique. And you know, we're always constantly growing. And the overall impact of our players, you know, seeing that our program is the highest team GPA in school history, you growth in every aspect. And so, you know, we know that there's going to be great challenges in front of us, but we're excited about the opportunity.
All right. I just straight up love doing this to coaches. I'm going to give you a chance to gush about your guy over here, Riley Ferguson, who played great football last year. Why is he such a great football player? And give me an intangible.
One of the greatest players in school history in Paxton Lynch. It was a first-round draft pick, and Riley just came in and worked, and he grew. He gained the respect of his teammates. You know, obviously played well, you know, on the field. But you know, I think the thing I'm most excited about is his continued growth, and that, you know, he came in this spring as a seasoned veteran now, and I thought he was one of the most improved players on our team because of how he worked. He lets his actions speak louder than any words that he has to say, and when you have that in your quarterback and a young man that's as talented as he is, he will help put you in position to be successful.
Now, Riley, looking back at last season, I think one of the most fun things was watching you progress and gain confidence throughout the year. Coach just said you're one of the most improved players out there this spring. What did he challenge you to get better at this spring?
Like he was saying, just my effort, you know, go out and just show with my actions and show the team that I'm going to be a leader, you know, and I don't really have to speak it through words. They'll be able to tell just by my work ethic. So I think that's the main thing, and, you know, just getting a grasp of the offense and the little thing we can learn. And I think Coach Norvell's done a great job with us, you know, teaching us the
rosters in the entire country. You got a tough schedule this season. You're hitting the road for probably some of your hardest games on the schedule. How is that experience and that veteran leadership going to come into play?
It's going to be a huge factor for us, you know, having experience in this offense, you know, a whole bunch of guys coming back from last year. So we're just going to have to take what we did last year and just improve on it and try and take things one game at a time.
Riley, how do you feel different out there as a leader this year? How has your role kind of shifted a little bit?
I would say I can be more vocal this year because, like Coach Norvell said, coming in, I didn't really know many guys at Memphis, so I had to work and, you know, earn that leadership. And I think now the guys have respect for me, so I can speak a little more, and I think they'll actually listen now.
Riley, in terms of your comfortability with the offense, where are you now compared to where you were last year? And what do you like about what Coach does on offense?
Well, I think I'm head over heels, you know, comfortable. You know, like as the season went on, I think I got a lot more comfortable as the season went on, and he's an offensive genius. When I came in and he recruited me, that was the first thing I noticed once he was showing me the offense. You know, there's never a play or a defense that can be right against our offense. It's really up to the quarterback. If we make the right read and the right checks, they can never be right. So that's what I really loved about it.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for taking a few minutes with us today. Best of luck to you all this season. We appreciate it. Thank you. Coming up next, we're going to meet the guys that are expected to play Memphis in the championship game come December 3rd. We'll be joined here on the set by USF head coach Charlie Strong and quarterback Quentin Flowers.
Way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially Schreitenthal's over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle.
A big save.
A clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Welcome back to American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. We're now joined on the set by the overall favorite to win it all this year. It's the USF Bulls head coach Charlie Strong and quarterback Quentin Flowers. Guys, thanks for taking a few minutes to talk to us today. I know you had some tough travel arrangements getting here yesterday, so you got in late last night, but how have you enjoyed Newport so far, Coach?
Well, really, I've enjoyed it. And then yesterday, it was just late, with a plane. We had just a little incident, but we were able to change our travel plans to get here. And we got here on time just for the clam bake.
You a lobster guy?
I'm a lobster guy,
There we
but
go.
but I've made my trip here plenty of times, so I kind of knew the routine.
A little adversity, but good practice for the season, right? Getting here yesterday. So, Coach, obviously your first year at USF, but you're very familiar with this league. What are you most excited about this season competing in this conference?
Well, just being here, being in the league, in the past, and now I'm coming back and then taking over an unbelievable program. And I will say this, Coach Taggart, he left me some outstanding players, and you see right there to your right with the quarterback now returning. But really excited just because just the number of starters coming back. But it's all about confidence. It's all about improving. It's all about staying within yourself and playing within yourself. I know that we're overall favorites, but that really doesn't mean anything right now. We still have to go to work and go play the game.
Coach, when you walked in the door day one, what was the message to your new group of men that you're leading?
Well, it's very hard to just get a message across to them because if you look at the conference and they wanted something to build on. So, once I walked in the door, just taking over, it's all about them getting to know me. A lot of the players I knew already just because I'd recruited them earlier. But, it's some outstanding coaches in this league, and they know that themselves. There's some outstanding players in this league, and they just want to improve on last season.
Now, Quentin, for you had such an outstanding season last year. You're obviously getting quite a bit of attention right now this time of year. But what have you challenged yourself to improve on in the offseason?
I challenge myself to improve on everything. Everything is always something you can get better at. And every day I go out, Coach Strong, he challenged me, score every time on the defense, make every possession counts. So I go out there every day and try to make everything count. And, if it's not there, just use my legs like he want me to. And that's what I did last year, so I got to continue doing it.
How do you personally kind of quiet that noise around you? You hear your name in this Heisman Trophy conversation, but season ahead. How do you stay focused on the task at hand coming up?
At the end of the day, you just have to do what you do best and just focus on yourself and your team. Like, I've always been told, don't worry about every...
As a senior, are you feeling kind of any different emotions this time of year, getting ready for camp, heading into your final year, putting on that USF uniform, or any different emotions kind of coming to the surface here for you?
I would say, yeah, just knowing that this is your last season, you have to make everything count. Every moment with your players, your coaches, the people that's around you, you will not get that back. So you just have to make every moment count.
Quinn, when it comes to leadership, what kind of leader are you? How can you be a better leader this year?
I'm a quiet leader. A lot of the coaches tell me I need to speak up, but I just let my actions show. I go out there and do what's best for the team, and once my guys see, me doing well and playing the game how I play it, they just follow behind me.
And Coach, I love to tee coaches up on something like this. Talk about your guy here. I know it's going to be the first season you will be coaching him, but what do you like? What do you see in the spring? Go ahead and gush over your quarterback, Quentin Flowers.
Well, anytime you have an outstanding player, you always look at them, and when he looked to improve himself and he knows that he has to get better himself, then you have an unbelievable player, and you have a player in the making. His leadership skills, I tell him all the time, you have to lead this football team, and he really understands that, and he goes about it. You have guys that are vocal, like I have Augie. Augie's going to talk, and he's vocal with his leadership ability, but Quentin doesn't say much at all. He goes about it with the way he works. And our players understand it, and they see the way he works. And when you have that command and And when you have the players that really have the confidence, our players really have a lot of confidence in him, especially our defensive players, because they know if we get the ball in his hands or we get the ball to the offense, then we have a chance to really do something good with it.
You are known for defense.
On defense, and there's no reason for us not to. We have outstanding players on defense, and you don't want to always put it on the offensive shoulder, the offensive team shoulder, where they have to score every time. And we just got to go out on defense and get better and improve and get some stops.
Now, Coach, for you, you've had several stops as a head coach. Now, look forward to most on game day.
Well, I just look to make sure that I put a product on the field that everyone's going to be pleased with, and I know this with the product I have now, we're going to be very pleased with.
How have you evolved as a head coach?
Well, you just each and every year you get better. You know, you'd always look to your players to get better, but as a head football coach, you want to get better and make sure you put your team in a position to go win a football game.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Coach. Thanks so much for your time, Quentin. Best of luck to you guys this season.
We're going to feature the coaches from the West. Let's see how many we've got coming in. Allow me to begin this by introducing from the far end to the near the 6 head coaches of the universities from the West. Far left, far right, my right, in his first year as head coach, Major Applewhite at the University of Houston. Next to him, Mike Norvell, second year at Memphis. My old friend Ken Neomatalolo from Navy, the elder gentleman of coaching staff in his 10th season. Chad Morris from SMU in his 3rd season. Willie Fritz in his 2nd year at Tulane, and Philip Montgomery in his 3rd year at Tulsa. I'm going to just play something off of what Mike addressed in his commissioner's comments about television. I'd just like for each of you, and toss it back and forth if you will, television has become a pervasive influence in college athletics, particularly, in my view, in college football. We have CBS representatives and ESPN representatives and social media representatives here. Major, I'll start with you. Is television's influence too strong, or right about what you'd like, or should they back off a little bit? Need his mic on, please.
Nice job. Nice hustle.
Yeah.
Great hustle.
Well done.
Great job.
That's a 4.40.
Outstanding. I look at it from the player standpoint and just how the exposure and how it can increase their quality of life and give them an opportunity beyond just the field and allow them to create exposure in their professional life. So the more exposure we can give our athletes and pay them back from that end, the better it is.
Mike?
You know, I agree in that sense for the players, but also it's just a tremendous opportunity for our communities. You know, our universities are being able to be showcased in nationally, and an opportunity, whether it's a Thursday night, Friday night, or a Saturday game, to be able to showcase the community that you're a part of, the representation of all our fine student athletes. But it's a great celebration for a place like Memphis to be able to illustrate the great culture and community that we have.
Ken, let's just keep going this way, and then we'll get into a back and forth.
Well, I don't have much to add on what they said, but I agree with everything they said, but it's the world we live in. Television, social media, I mean, it's, you say it's too much power, I mean, it's the world that we live in. It provides great exposure, and, for me as an older guy, you just got to get used to the social media and stuff. It is, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, it's more about the marketing. How can you market your program, market these young men, market the universities, and as Mike said, your communities and the city. Anytime you can get that out nationwide across the country, that's what you're after. Everything comes back to recruiting, and guys at this age, they want to be seen.
Willie?
Very important for us at Tulane. Only about 15% of our student body is from the state of Louisiana. So we've got alums all over the country. As a matter of fact, we had a function in Newport on Sunday evening, had about 30 alums there, and they follow us on TV on a weekly basis. It's very important for us.
Phil?
Yeah,
You know, I don't know that there's much more to add than what everybody's done. I do feel like, especially for us, I mean, we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know, not a ton of people across the nation have been to Tulsa. Out at the end of the year, and you're rolling, great things can happen.
Willie?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I really would like to see it expanded to 8. And I think it would give an opportunity for all the universities in the country to compete for the national championship.
Chad?
Yeah, this is what, they finished the 3rd year of the 4 teams, and I think they've proven that that was a big success. To see it grow to 8, I think would benefit, it would generate more excitement, more revenue, more exposure. So I would like to see it expanded.
How about Kenny?
Yeah, like Monty said, I mean, I love the system. You know, we probably need to tweak it somehow, but, you know, all of us got in this profession, we're all competitors. You know, so an opportunity to compete, you know, that's why we're in this profession. You know, I've gone back and forth. What are the numbers? You know, how much do you expand? I'm not really exactly sure, but, you know, I think it's a great system. Got to tweak it somehow. I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are, though.
Mike?
You know, I think you look across college football and you've seen progression, and you know, with the changes that were made to get the playoff system that is now, and the committee, I mean, there's been a lot of thought and time that's gone into this, but as we continue to progress as a game, the excitement continues to grow. I mean, the quality of the teams and really the parity in college football is remarkable. And, you know, you look at this past year, I mean, these guys, we had some phenomenal football teams in our conference, and you know, even though there was a loss here or a loss there, not having an opportunity to showcase that in one of the BCS games, I mean, that was you know, I say disappointing, because you've seen the success that our conference has had, you know, in the regular season against the other Power 6 schools, and that's something we just want an opportunity to showcase that and have an opportunity to win that championship, much like you see in the basketball tournament in March. And so, you know, that's something we're all striving for, but you have to love the progression that we've seen in our game.
Major?
I agree with everything Monty was saying, and opening the field up to 8. Just sometimes, you know, what is an early loss versus a late loss? Open the field up, number the teams, and let them play it off at the end.
Bill Hancock is here, so I hope he's listening. I know he'll hear, of course. Is it feasible is it dependent on the length of the television contract before it would change? What do you think? Or can it be done in the next 4 or 5 years?
You know, I hear everybody talk about how it's going to be a strain on the student athletes, but you're really talking about 2 teams that'll play 1 extra week.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, I think at some point in time they'll look at it again and maybe revise the format.
Concurrence, okay. Safety is so big. This had to come up. It's such an issue now, socially, across the country. How do you respond? Again, I'd like each of you to take a shot at this. When a father says, I don't want my son to play college football, or a mom will stand up and say, it's too dangerous. Would you each comment on that element of your job in how you stress safety issues or concerns when you're in a recruit's home?
You know, coming up, I'm 35 years old, and I've played or coached the game of football since I was 5. And I cannot imagine what that journey would have been without this game, and the leadership and the discipline, the highs and the lows that you experience in the game of football. Yes, I believe education is the most important thing with our game. And I know that at this time, with the safety, with all the safety issues that arise, I mean, our job as coaches are to teach and to help educate our young men how to play this game to the best of their ability, to make sure that they're doing it to maintain the highest quality of safety that's possible. But we just need to be able to continue that outreach. And I know all these guys within our own communities, we try to assist that process in helping with the youth coaches, helping the high school coaches, and that relationship's so important, because this game, it's the greatest game in the world. And it would be an absolute travesty that if it lessened and fewer young men got the opportunity to be a part of it, you know, it's one of the things that makes our country so great because of that opportunity.
I kind of feel like, you know, this game has been good to all of us here. It's a responsibility, it's an obligation of ours to help this game progress. You know, the game has evolved. I think, you know, things that maybe we learned growing up, you see better ways of doing it. I know I've had to evolve as a coach. I'm an O-line guy. If you could, I mean, we'd be under the chutes hitting every day. But I've learned you can't do that. You know, there's ways that we've had to adjust. I know just from a tackling standpoint, I know when we started as a staff trying to take your head out of it more and teaching that. I mean, I know it's hard on defensive guys, you know, because they're used to head across the bow and those sorts of things. But you have to adjust. For the safety of our game, there are things that have to adjust. And I think guys in this room, guys in our profession, not only in college but in high school, at the youth level, I think people are doing a better job just trying to educate so we can make this game safer, but it's definitely an obligation of ours.
I think Ken, or what Ken said is dead on. And Vern, you know, being a Texas high school football coach for as long as I was with, is educating the youth sports, because, you know, so many of those guys get in there and they get their sons or daughters that play as well hooked up with the wrong guy, the wrong coach. He's in it for the wrong reason. And usually when you look at those things, someone had a bad experience through a youth program. That maybe the coach was there to you know, he was there just to win the Super Bowl, and I've heard that many times. And just educating the parents that, look, the game of football, even at our level, the game of football was meant to play. These young men started playing it because it was fun. And I've said it before, I've been victim of doing it, you know, to take the fun out of the game. A coach can do that in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And so you have to really educate these young men at the young level, and even in middle school and up to high school, and even at our level, is that, you know, it's a violent sport, it's a tough sport, it's meant to be played by tough people, but there's a time and place that as you progress through your playing experience, that it gets a little bit more demanding and a little bit more of a job-like. But still, these young kids started playing because it's fun, and when you take the fun out of the game, it's really tough, and you get a bad taste.
You know, I think the NCAA is doing a good job of implementing safety into the new rules. And, you know, one of the things that when I talk to I'm going to work with a park league on Saturday. And one of the first things I show the kids and the parents and the coaches, I believe NCAA football was fifth. And we're talking right now mostly about concussions, but was number 5 sport behind wrestling and women's and men's ice hockey and lacrosse. Just a couple of hundreds behind football was women's soccer. And you don't ever hear people talk about that. Right. You know, so I think all the coaches across the country, particularly at the Division I level, are doing a great job of practicing the right way. You know, I know they just put some new rules into play here about not tackling to the ground, but I doubt any of the coaches up here actually tackle to the ground during the season anyway. You know, and then also the new tackling strategies that have been brought to the forefront. So there's a lot of good going on right now in college football, teaching and educating, you know, the youth programs.
Phil?
You know, like Chad, I mean, I've coached at every level of football, from youth to junior high to high school to college. Obviously, I haven't been in the NFL, but, you know, this game, kids are so excited to start this game. This is the best game in America. I mean, when you start talking about how to develop men, how to develop teamwork and discipline, how working together, all of those times you can achieve one goal, those guys being on one mission to do it. I think it's probably the best, a football locker room is probably the best melting pot of society that you'll find anywhere. We got kids that are, you know, from towns of less than 1,000 to kids from the city. And then you put them in a locker room, and they all become part of one family. Yes, the game. Some of that, I think, is just as they read stories and see media things that are going on, you know, it just kind of draws you back a little bit until you find out really the facts. Just like Willie was talking about there, women's soccer is very close behind football. You know, the game has changed over the years considerably. I mean, when I played, we practiced 3 times a day. Coaches didn't allow you to have water at practice because they thought that made you weak. You know, all of these things. The game's not like that anymore. You know, tackling has changed. We did things this spring. We put sensors in our helmets trying to make sure at different stages of our practice that this is when the most contact is happening. How do we adjust that? We'll do the same thing all fall through our games and practices, trying to collect more data to be more precise about what's going on during games and during practice. So we're doing the things to try to help the safety of our game, but also to make sure that we're taking care of our student athletes, because that's the #1 priority as we all go through this process.
Major?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is coaches don't have their head in the sand anymore.
Right.
And there's not decades of research, and you see a lot of coaches doing a lot of things, all the way from what type of drills you're doing to what type of equipment you're providing, all the way to reaching out into youth programs to educate kids on how to tackle and how to keep their head out of things. And I think this is a good generation of football coaches and administrators that are addressing this issue, and we need to keep, you know, just like a game plan, you keep poking holes into it, you know, until you can get it right. And I think that's what we're doing.
I have a specific question. Do they have the targeting rule right yet?
Is Terry McCulley here?
Terry's sitting right back there, Ken.
Yeah. No, I just know that has been tweaked over the years. And I just wonder, from your opinion, from your perspective, if they're close to getting the interpretation of what is and what is not properly adjudicated.
I think allowing them to use instant replay is definitely going to help, because it's just so, you know, bang bang type plays.
Oh my gosh!
With targeting, and I know that everybody's coaching the heck out of that as well, and making sure that, you know, not leading with the helmet and those different types of things, and what area is permissible and what area isn't permissible. So I think it's getting much better than what it was 5 years ago, I believe, when they introduced the rule initially.
Anybody else?
I think what it does is just you address it. You know, I mean, you spend more time on it, and I think it's definitely helped their game. The rules, there's still things that they're working on, the logistic part of it to get better, but I think all of us have tried to address it as coaches, so I think it's made the game better.
How about replay as a tool? I mean, we've had it now forever, it seems. Are you comfortable with the way replay is applied to the college game as opposed to the NFL? Anybody?
I think this year we're implementing a couple of new things. I know in our conference where, you know, your video board within your stadium is going to be able to see what's going on in the replay booth and see that exact footage. I think the concerns that we've had over replay have been we're not seeing the same things. So as judgment calls are being made, those of us on the field, you know, we're wondering what's going on. Being able to kind of see what he's looking at, I think just being open and honest about all of that will allow the game to move along a little bit quicker. And those judgment tight calls that you have within games, I think you'll be able to move past and get back to the game quicker.
Anybody? What is, each of you I would like, what's the best thing about your job? What brings you the most satisfaction as a head coach in Division I? Major, why don't you start? Just first year?
Personal development. I mean, that's the same thing as an assistant. You know, as an assistant or a coordinator, just seeing a player from this level to this level, whether it's academic, social life, football, catching the ball, tackling, just seeing him go from here to here as a human being. I mean, we all love to win games and win championships, and we all have our bowl rings and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, you forget about those scores and those games, but you remember that family and that mom outside the locker room. That's the cool part that's unique about our job.
You know, I think the process, yearly process, it's you know, being a Division I head football coach, it's a 365-day a year job, and it's because you're developing young men, you're developing staffs, you have relationships that becomes family. And so when you go through that process, and the impact of every decision that you make is going to you'll have a water, kind of a ripple effect. It is so enjoyable when you have those successes. And, and to be honest, it's even some of the adversity you face, you sit back and at the end of it, you see how a team responds, you see how coaches respond, you see how you respond personally. And so that process is so very enjoyable. And then being able to go out and recruit the next young man that's going to have his life and his journey altered by the decisions that you get, and really pushing to make everything positive for every one of those situations.
This will be my 10th year at the Naval Academy, and 20 altogether, and just for me, it's just seeing the end product. Guys come back, see them as fathers and husbands, seeing what they're doing with their lives, because then you remember games, and we're all competitive, we all want to win, but you start, as time goes on, you start to forget those games. You forget some of that stuff, but when you see them after coming back and who they've become, to me, that's what makes it all worth it.
Ken, before Chad goes next, is your job significantly different than those of the other 5?
No, I think we're all trying to develop men.
Okay.
All of us are trying to develop men, whatever they become after. I'm grateful that our young men are going to serve our country and protect our country. I'm grateful for that. But just because you're not in the military doesn't make you less of a person. I feel very fortunate to coach there, but all of us are, we're, as Monty was saying, as Phil was saying, we're coaching guys, but we're developing people, and football is a great laboratory for life. And I think we're developing people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe just the personal development, kind of like what Major said. You're watching these young men grow. They come in at a certain level. They leave out of your program at a certain level. But, and then when they're able to come back and use some of the same strategies and going through the ups and the downs in their life, because that's what football is. Football is the greatest teaching tool that these young men will go through. It's because not every day is going to be exactly like it's planned. You got to adjust, and you got to adapt, and you're going to get knocked down, and you got to get back up. But to be able to watch these young men come back in and share with you some of the traits that you've shared with them that's helping them through their day-to-day life, that's really what's special. And I'm starting my 25th year. And to see that has been really unique.
Yeah, this will be my 25th year as a head coach, and 36 years as a college coach and high school coach. And I think it's about the relationships, all the things these guys talked about. As a matter of fact, one of Chad's players, I actually coached his dad.
Oh, wow.
And yesterday I took a picture with him, and I sent it to his, I took a picture of Cortland Sutton and sent it to his father, and he called me right afterwards. I don't think a day goes by I don't talk to at least one of my former players. So I think the relationships are just so neat. The impact that you find out that you had on some of these guys years down the line.
Phil?
Yeah, I don't know that I can add much more. I think as long as we all continue to remember why we got into this, and it wasn't about this job or that job. It wasn't about wins and losses at the time. Yes, we're all competitive. We got into this profession because of our love for kids and our passion to see them grow and mature. And so in this game, you're able to kind of help develop those. So as kids come back and you're able to call, and, I think my wife and I, we got invited to like 8 different weddings this summer of former players that, some of them you can make, some of them you can't. But you're getting to text with those guys. They call, you're going to weddings. All of a sudden you get baby announcements in the mail or whatever. And so that part of it is great, because we want to develop the leaders of tomorrow. And those leaders may not be the ones leading our government or leading our cities, but they're going to be part of our communities, and they're going to be great husbands and fathers. And that's the goal, I think, of all of us sitting up here at the end of the day.
Those are really impressive remarks from each of you. I'd like to just start with you, Phil, go the other way. The contrast is going to come. I won't say the worst part of your job, but what do you find the least attractive or most distracting part of being a head coach?
You're going to love this comment. Probably the media is the thing. No, I'm just, there's not anything about the job that I don't like. I mean, there's other challenges within the end that there's a lot of different facets to this job. And the thing we love doing more than anything is coaching our kids, preparing for games, and being around them. Everything else besides that is just the fray of it all, and that's what we're trying to manage. The toughest thing is making sure that we find time to spend with our kids and our wives and having that special time together. So I don't know that there's anything that I just don't enjoy about it.
Right.
Obviously, there's things I enjoy more than others, but there's nothing I dislike.
You know, I think it's when we talk about relationships. I talked about that before, and you're not successful with a young man, and he's not successful in your program. That's difficult when you have to part ways with someone and that you've tried to work with and mentor, and that happens from time to time. And I'm sure that's something that's difficult for all the coaches. But that'd be something I'd say is the toughest thing about being a head coach or an assistant coach.
Chad?
Yeah, I would add to what these guys have said. You know, the cell phone, you're really on call 24/7, 365. Whether you're sitting down with just you and your wife in that time, like Phil was saying, you make time with your family, and then all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's a recruit or it's a player, and you got an issue you got to deal with, and you know you always have to be on, and there are no bad days when you deal with alumni and you deal with boosters. You have to be on your A game every day.
Right.
So those not necessarily what I dislike about it, but it's just something that is much different.
Kenny?
I don't have anything much to add to what they said. I mean, I feel very fortunate, kind of what Monty said. I mean, I'm sure maybe some things you may not like as much, but I think all of us feel very fortunate to be in this profession. And so, you know, I feel very grateful, love what I do. And like I said, I'm probably sure there's some things that I don't enjoy more than others, but I enjoy what I do.
Mike?
You know, I think managing distractions for the student athletes. I mean, now more than ever, you know, they're you know, elevated with social media and who they are and their position, and you know, part of our job is to educate them on how to handle that, how to present themselves in a first-class manner. But there's so many distractions out there, and there's so many people that, you know, really at the end of the day, they become a target. And you know, and it's unknown. It's unknown to us as a coach, and you try to stay in advanced, you know, advanced planning and how to prepare them. But there's just so many distractions now for an 18 to 22-year-old that you know, trying to get that balance and that education. And while they have so many other things going on, not, you know, with summer training, weight room, being a student, I mean the games. But you know, that's probably one of the most challenging things, that you just don't always know where those distractions are coming from. And
I've been back at midnight, and I just would like to see us do some things to help them to have a more quality of life. And there's nothing I don't like about the job, or otherwise I'd go do something else. But I think we can, you know, try to take care of our coaches and make sure they're healthy and they're good fathers on top of being good position coaches and good coordinators and those things.
We've got a few minutes. Anybody out here have a question or two? We'll open it up for anybody to anybody right here.
Major, you said you changed things for assistants, you know, to improve their quality of life. What are some things that you would suggest or recommend that head coaches can do for assistants?
Well, I think, you know, the early signing day is one thing that can help in terms of moving up even sooner and earlier. I think there's a lot of wasted dollars, a lot of wasted miles in cars, a lot of babysitting trips that quite honestly don't need to happen if a young man wants to go ahead and sign his letter of intent and get the charade over with. I just look at coaches in and out of airports at 11 o'clock at night, getting up at 5 to go to this high school's off season at 6 o'clock, and the kid's been committed for 8, 9, 10 months, and he wants to sign with State U. And I think about all the coaches putting themselves at risk. Are they paid well? Absolutely, and I'm not complaining. You know, we understand the risks of our job and what it all comes along with. But at some point, you know, the way we look at the hours of the week for the players and the way we look at the hours of the week and how much they can hit, we need to look at that 52-year-old man who's behind the wheel driving at 11 o'clock at night after his 18th day on the road recruiting and make sure that he's healthy and he's doing the right things for his wife and his kids, because he's given everything of himself to those players on that team.
Put in the favorites role in the West Division?
You know, it's a great compliment, you know, for our program. You know, we know at the end of the day, you know, being you know, picked as a preseason favorite really doesn't get you anything. And you I think as our guys, the biggest focus that we've had is trying to maximize the opportunity that we have in our preparation so that when we get to the season, we're in the best position to be successful. Because I can guarantee you, playing in this league, every game that we play is going to come down to one play. I think you can just go through every preseason pick, in our conference and every conference. And, I know the team that was picked, in our division last year was not the one that was holding the trophy at the end of the season, because it is a phenomenal league that we play in. And, our guys, it's like I said, we take it as a great compliment, but we know there's a lot of work that's going to go into it and a lot of close games.
Right here? Sure.
I'm not going to try to pronounce your name, Ken, but talk a little bit about being kind of the senior citizen as far as American coaches are concerned and the value of coaching continuity.
It's Neomatololo. I've done it a few times.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Major said about 50-year-old men. I said, wait a minute, I'm 52 years old. But I became a grandfather this past summer. It is what it is. I'm grateful that I'm still being able to coach. I love this profession. And the thing about in our conference, we're talking little things about our conference. Not only do we have really good football coaches in our conference, we got good people. And so I enjoy, be around these guys. When we played
on East Carolina, you played them 2 years, and they've rotated off your schedule now. But talk a little bit about the first year you played them as opposed to the second year in terms of evaluating them as an opponent.
Well, going up there last year and playing and was definitely a challenge for us, going on the road, and they've got a great fan base, great fan following, and Coach has done a great job in his first year there building that program up. And I mean, one of the things that we noticed going in is how explosive they were offensively. The wide receiver after that, but a program just talent rich, being on the East Coast, being up there, recruiting that area, feeling like that in North Carolina, that's one of the premier jobs up there, because you're able to recruit and you've got such a huge fan base following. But we played them at our place the first year and jumped out on an early lead, and then they came back and beat us. And then last year we were fortunate enough to hold on and win. So just a program that's one big in this conference, and definitely what Coach is doing there is got it going in the right direction.
We've got time for a couple more. Back here on the right.
This is for any coach who wants to answer it. How does the early signing period change the way you guys recruit?
I think it's going to be something that with the early signing periods, everybody's going through the first year process. And, I think it'll be interesting to see with young men, the in-season official visits. There's going to be more opportunities there. The way the calendar falls this year, you're going to have a couple weekends there after the regular season and championship games conclude. So I don't think it'll change it that much, but I do think it'll be interesting as we get down to that early signing, which kids elect to sign early. I think with some of the other schools, who provides the opportunity for a kid to sign early, those are all things that are going to be up in the air, and I think we're going to learn from the first year experience and then make adjustments as we all move forward, what best fits our school and program.
One more. Anybody? Nada. Well, I want to thank each of the six of you. Major, Mike, Ken, Chad, Willie, Philip. You're terrific examples of the best coaching fraternity. Thank you for doing this. We're going to be back with the East Division coaches in a half an hour. Thank you, guys.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Vern, and thanks a lot to those West Division coaches for sharing some of their thoughts on some of the probably most talked about topics right now across the country in college football. Andy, what's your takeaway from that roundtable?
Well, the awareness of how things are changing in the sport of college football, and in listening to some of what was said up there, Look, I played from 92 to 95 at a 1AA program at the University of Rhode Island, which is like the highest level of FCS football. And you hear a lot of the whole, well, I didn't give you water back in the day because it supposedly made you tough. And to hear using technology and to hear Major Applewhite talk about making sure that we're taking care of the assistant coaches, I think because guys come up through the ranks, they understand how difficult it is. And once they get to become a head coach, they have the ability to be change agents, as Andrew Brandt would say from covering the NFL. And who are the agents of change? And I think if you're a head coach, you have the ability to do that. And just hearing how it's a whole different world now. No longer, hey, sniff the smelling salts and get your rear end back out there. There are protocols, there's legislation now. Concussions are a big deal. I think to coach to that, it forces you to have to develop the depth on your roster and to make sure that when kids get hurt, you've got other kids who can step up and replace and at least play at some level.
Well, coming up next, we're going to talk a whole lot more about the West Division. Coming up, though, we're going to be joined here on the set by Houston head coach Major Applewhite and wide receiver Steven Dunbar.
Hands at the end of the game, win or lose.
Competing at the best ability, but also at the end of it saying, great race and great job, and can't wait to see you in finals.
Somewhere there's someone who is looking up to me.
So it's not just trying to win the game or the match, but trying to become better people.
Being able to give someone eye contact and really genuinely say good job.
No matter how high the competition is, you are all competing for the same thing and one common goal.
When a ref makes a call that you don't necessarily agree with or might cause a dispute on the field, just to control the controllables.
Without sportsmanship, you really lose what the game is all about.
So sportsmanship is important because not only as a student athlete do I affect my team, but at the same time I'm affecting every single person in the stands. I'm affecting every single little girl that's coming to the volleyball game to watch me. And I think as student athletes, our reach is so far. We don't realize how much we impact other people.
At the end of the game, having a good game conversation with the opponent, because they put a lot of work into the game as you have, and to show that respect and acknowledgement of the work that you've both put in is a big part of sportsmanship.
You have to respect the other team, the officials, but obviously cheer on your team in a respectable manner.
And I represent not only the university, but I also represent the American Conference, and I want to put my best foot forward.
Be proud of who you are and what you stand for.
Having good sportsmanship allows you to walk away from a win feeling like you really deserved it and you really earned it, not only by what you did on the court, but by how you conducted yourself. And everybody in that game that you played against is also going to say, you deserve that win. Not only did you outplay us, but you might have even outclassed them or, showed them that you were a good competitor.
We're live here at Football Media Day and are now joined on the set by Houston head coach Major Applewhite and wide receiver Steven Dunbar. Guys, thanks a lot for joining us here today. I know you've had a chance now to kind of soak in some of Newport. Steven, you told me this is your first trip here. What's been your favorite part so far?
The water is beautiful. The boats, just seeing like all the birds flying around, just nice views.
Now, as you head into your senior season, you've kind of gotten to know this Houston program. You've been a part of some really amazing accomplishments the past couple of years. But new head coach for you this season, but not an unfamiliar face. How has this transition been for you?
It's been smooth. From people, different personalities, but it's been a smooth transition.
How has it been for you? Obviously, you guys lose a great quarterback from the past couple of years in Greg Ward Jr., now some new faces working into that mix. How do you feel like your chemistry is developing there?
It's actually going pretty good. Me, Kyle, and some other quarterbacks, we get together, throw. We're getting good personalities, get together, laughing, joking around a lot in the locker room, hanging out more outside of football. So it's been getting better.
Coach, a unique transition for you into being the head coach, because it was at a time in that early back and you're the one standing there. It wasn't quite like that, but it was, okay, you're sliding over. How did that actually help in the transition? Did it make it easier compared to going through a process, getting hired, being completely coming in from the outside?
Well, I think we had done a great job in the last 2 years of establishing what we wanted to do as a program and our culture, and the players are comfortable with it. These are things that all coaches instill in their program in terms of discipline and accountability and executing and taking ownership and spreading your culture, and those things aren't going to change. As Steve mentioned, the faces have changed, some of the personalities have changed, but the way you run your program and what you have to do And the investments you have to make and the sacrifices you have to make as a football player to play for championships will never change. So nothing has changed from that standpoint for our players.
What are some of the lessons that you have learned along the way? You were a player, you played at a big-time school, and then you get into coaching. How different lessons that you've learned that if a young guy is thinking, hey, you know what, I might want to get into coaching, it's the whole, how do you smarten them up?
Well, you know, it was really, it was perfect because Mac Brown pulled my girlfriend, now my wife at that time, after I finished school, pulled us into a lunch and just called us and said, why don't you come with Sally and I? And my wife and I, you know, wife now, he said point blank, he said, doing anything else, go do it. But if you can only see yourself coaching, then I would get into it. And it's a calling, and it's not just the male. I mean, it's the wife. It's what she has to do with those children, those 7 months from August to February through recruiting.
It's the old ex-wife or a great wife, right?
Well,
like you hear that adage in coaching all the time, but it's true.
They are the sheroes. They're the ones that get them up and get them dressed for school. They're the ones that pick them up from school, take them to dance, take them to soccer, get them home, feed them, and you've been gone from 5:30 till 10 o'clock at night. And they've had an entire day of raising your children. So it is a commitment. It is a partnership in what you're doing, and that was great advice. And I thought it was great that Coach Brown included my girlfriend, now wife at that time, or wife now, but to kind of get her on, you know, this is a full deal. You got to be all in.
Now, Coach, for you, you've had the chance as the offensive coordinator the past couple of years to coach an outstanding quarterback in Greg Ward Jr. I know you're working with a couple of new faces in that position this year, but no matter who your starter is, come game day, you've got a pretty good target here in this guy, Stephen Dunbar. What are you most impressed about with his skill set?
Humility and work ethic. You know, humility and work ethic, never feeling like he's arrived, constantly trying to get better. Each and every rep, each and every drill, each and every detail, working at the edge of his abilities every day. And I see Steve push himself against his best self. It's obvious that the bar is not at Houston. When he finishes sprints first, he tries to finish the next one faster. He's constantly competing against his best self, and he's got to focus when he enters the field, and it means a lot to him. There's a lot of competitive pride there, and those kind of athletes are the ones that are successful, and that's why he's had success.
Stephen, for you as a senior, heading into your last season at Houston, how would you evaluate your leadership style and how you're helping those guys around you?
I think I'm getting better as far as the vocal side of it. Like I've always been working hard, but it's kind of like, as a young guy, I always was kind of in my own bubble. I'm starting to try to get out of my bubble and kind of bring some younger guys along, get them, teach them what it's like to work hard and train to the edge of your ability and see yourself succeed from hard work. So I think that's my biggest development so far, is just being more of a vocal leader and trying to bring guys along.
This team has gotten so much national attention, especially the past couple of years, and has accomplished some pretty amazing things. But heading into your last season, what would be the icing on the cake for you? What is the one thing you really hope to accomplish this year?
To win the West and win the conference championship. That'd be where I want to see our team at by the end of the season.
All right, I'm going to ask from a player standpoint. I know you're a wide receiver now, but how much of a freak is Ed Oliver?
No, I didn't know Ed. I knew of him, of course, but and we was just playing around with the basketballs, and I seen him get a ball and like take a drop step and like dunk the ball. And one of my teammates, Tanesh, I just looked at him and I just shook my head and I was like, man, like, this dude's special. And it's just like watching him work out, watching him do things. He's like, he moves as if like he's not his weight. It's like he moves like he's like 200 pounds and he's like 270 or something like that. But he's a freak athlete.
Coach, same question for you. You can evaluate it from a flipping on the tape standpoint. What's the first thing that jumps out to you when you evaluate and see Ed Oliver?
His intensity, his effort. I mean, there's a lot of great defensive linemen, there's a lot of great athletes that play D-line, but play after play after play, his motor's in the same place, and that's him 24/7. I mean, he has an insane amount of energy, and that's in the off-season sessions, that's in the film room. I mean, he is full tilt every bit of the day. So that's the thing that sticks out to me as an offensive coach is, you know, this guy doesn't take any plays off. You know, so we're going to have to continue to put him on the move, but he's also in great shape, and he continues to play at that level throughout the course of the game. So some great defensive linemen fade. They take a play off here and there. You can find a weakness, but his effort, that's the number one thing.
What does that do from a play calling standpoint when you got a guy in the middle of the defensive line where you can move him around if you want to, and it's the old you got to find him, but it almost doesn't matter where he's at. He's going to make an impact and he's going to make a play. From a play caller standpoint, just how difficult is it to shape a game plan around someone that is so dominant and who can go, like you said?
Well, what you said is the key is what all can you do with them? You know, when you have a 3 technique that is always playing 3 technique, you can find ways to run the ball opposite or different schemes against that. But when he plays 0 nose, when he plays a 3 technique, when he plays a 5 technique, he plays a 4-eye, how do you ever find him? How do you know where he's going to be? And so schematically, that's why we move him around a lot, is we want to make him hard to find, so you can't just kind of sink your teeth into what we're doing and say, well, we're going to run to the left because he's going to be lined up to the right. So, that's why we have a lot of multiplicity in what we do defensively.
Coach, the University of Houston's obviously gotten quite a bit of attention in recent years especially, but you're able to sign a 5-star recruit like that in Ed Oliver. You play a tough schedule, you're getting that recognition and attention. How important is it to you to keep this talent in Texas and keep those guys close to home wanting to come to your school?
I mean, it's vital. It is the absolute bloodline of our program. We've had a lot of great players from outside the state of Texas as well. Steve's one of them. Brandon Wilson, Trayvon Stewart, BJ Singleton, all guys that played on our Peach Bowl team. And so we've had great players outside of the state, but specifically in the city of Houston. That's what we have to do a great job of. All 10 of our coaches, we take all 200 or 185, I believe it is, 185 schools in the Houston area. And each coach on our staff has about 18 schools in Houston, so all of our coaches are involved in recruiting the city and make sure we comb it pretty finely.
All right, Coach and Steven, thanks so much for your time today. We wish you both the best of luck this season. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we're going to be joined here on the set by the pick to finish 3rd in the West Division. It's Navy head coach Ken Niumatalolo and DJ Palmore. Stay with us.
Oh, that ball is hit deep, left field, way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially Schreitenthal's over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle.
A big save.
A clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
The 2017 American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. Napa has your back. It doesn't take a whole lot of know-how to understand that most guys don't like shopping. So the next time you need auto parts, visit NapaOnline.com to select your store and reserve your parts online. So when you get to the store, your order is waiting for you. Just pay and get on with your day. Reserve online at NapaOnline.com. That's Napa Know-How. Thanks for joining us live here at American Football Media Days. We're now joined on the set by Navy head coach Ken Niumatalolo and senior linebacker DJ Palmore. Guys, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us today. I know you got a lot of people to talk to, but DJ, I'll start with you. You were voted this year as the team captain by your teammates. That's one of the greatest honors I think a football player at Navy can achieve. What did that mean to you to find that out?
It's one of the greatest honors I've had just in my life, playing football, anything. You know, the fact that they voted me as their team captain, someone fit to lead them, when I know the type of characters they are, they're all leaders. So I feel like anyone could have the job, but to know that they chose me, it means a lot for me, and it makes me love them even more to see that they have that faith in me.
Yeah, you had a great season last year on the field as well. You led your team in sacks, tackles for loss. And I think just a few minutes ago, we found out that you were named to the Butkus Award watch list. Goes out to the nation's best college linebacker. So you set the standard pretty high last season. What are you going to do this season to take it to the next level?
Just better everything, higher numbers, just all around, better man, better player, better in school. And I think if all those things, if I do better in all those areas, I'll have the best season I've had. And just bring my teammates along with me. That's it.
Coach, describe DJ as a player, but as a leader as well. Obviously, his teammates think very highly of him. How does he look through your eyes?
Well, he embodies everything that we're looking for for a student athlete at the United States Naval Academy. He's a hard worker. He's a humble kid. The thing about DJ, you never have to worry about him. You know, academically, he's a really good student. Off the field, he always takes care of himself. I mean, he's never in any kind of issues. And on the field, he's a hard worker. So he's a dream to coach. You never worry about him. He's always the first guy, you know, in the weight room. He works hard. And I think the greatest leadership quality he has is he leads by example.
Coach, as you look at your football team this year, you know, Haley asked me earlier about the media poll, and they said, what surprised you? And I said, well, Navy's like third in their division, for crying out loud. And I wrote down consistency, winning, and tradition. Year after year after year, you find a way. You had a quarterback situation last year as well. What is it that you have been able to develop that has allowed the consistency to be able to go with the great tradition that you have at Navy? I know there isn't a great secret, I understand that, but how do you kind of verbalize what you've built and giving yourself the ability to be a factor in this conference every season?
Probably our culture, you know, and the ability to have a staff that's, you know, we have a continuity of staff. Our staff's been together for a long time. And because of the continuity of staff, they've allowed us to go out and recruit players like DJ, Darryl Bonner. Our coaches know what we're looking for, the type of young men we're looking for, the type of young men that will succeed at the Naval Academy, both on and off the field. And I think just that continuity of our culture, assistant coaches, has allowed us to continue on, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Coach, you mentioned something about recruiting a kid like DJ. And DJ, I want to ask you, because I have never asked a player who has been recruited by Navy, what were your thoughts in high school as to where you were going to go, what it was going to be like, and then what it was like when you met Coach Ken and thinking of Navy as an option for you to continue your college football career?
So first, our offensive line coach, Coach Ingram, came to my school and talked to me about the Naval Academy. I had no idea what it was, and most people don't, unless they have some family that's part of the military. But I took it serious. I gave him a shot, thinking, oh, this is a great place. Like, I want to go somewhere with great academics. And then when it really hit home is when I had my in-home visit. Coach Nehemiah came and talked to my family, and I was like, Coach Nehemiah is really in my house right now. I went and got my next door neighbor. He was in the Marine Corps, and he was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. And they just love me. They love my family, and I owe it back to them for giving me a shot to play college football.
Well, you kind of mentioned it, but Coach Ken Niumatalolo, heading into his 10th season, Coach, you're a legend. Last year, you arguably did your best coaching job yet. I think it's safe to say you probably faced more adversity than anybody in the conference last year. You went through 3 quarterbacks. What did you learn about yourself last year as a head coach?
Well, I don't know. What I learned that we have resilient players. The players stepped up. You know, we had, like you said, we were unfortunate to have a ton of injuries to key players. You know, injuries are a part of sports, unfortunately a part of football, and you try your best to limit them. You know, but guys get hurt. But you know, you're very sad for our players because you're so close to them, so you're sad when those players get hurt. But to see the resiliency of the guys that stepped up, you know, in place of them, just lets you know that you have wonderful young men.
DJ, I want to ask you, no one says a bad word about your coach. He is loved by everyone, which in this world is pretty crazy, especially in the sport of college football. What is it that you can tell people who are watching or listening right now about your head coach and the way you feel about him?
He teaches us how to love. Like, coming in, you are a high school athlete, then you're going to be the big guy on campus, and you kind of realize he teaches us it's not really about you. And I think that's why we've had success in our program, because we love each other, and we're not afraid to say it. Like, maybe a few years ago, oh, I love my friend. No, I wouldn't say that, but he taught us how to love each other. Sometimes tough love is the way to go, but it's all, in good health. And when we see a player go down, we don't see, oh, our quarterback is hurt. We see, oh, Tyler Smith is hurt, my friend, my brother, or Daniel Gonzalez is hurt, not our starting linebacker. And that's our culture. It's not just, it goes way farther than just football.
You talk about the love for your teammates and having to go through that adversity that you all went through last year. I mean, you look back in a 9-win season, it looks pretty good, but the way that season ended had to have left kind of a bitter taste in your guys' mouth. It wasn't the ending that I think you all were hoping for. How did the end to last season help bring this team closer together?
Just guys coming together, and when you have new guys in different positions, we stood behind them. Like, those are the guys that are going to play, and we're going to have faith in them. They're on the field. The coaches put them on the field, and that made us trust each other more, and that brought us together as a team.
There's a lot of pressure when it came to the end of last season, hosting the championship game, and then Army-Navy, and then playing in a bowl game. But you have one more year to kind of flip that script and go out the way that I would assume you would like to. But how would you describe the feeling after that Army-Navy game?
That's probably one of the worst feelings I've ever had in my life. And it wasn't because we lost. It's kind of felt like we let down guys that came before us. Like, they put so much work into it, and they put so much work into building what we stand for, and we're the guys that protect that now. It's kind of like a letdown to them, not really to us as much. Like, it was our season, but it's more of the people that came before.
Going into this final season as a senior and putting on the Navy football uniform, I know your goals for this season. You want to win the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy, you want to win a conference championship, and most importantly, you want to beat Army. But just as a player on this football program, putting on this jersey, what is the one thing that you hope to feel after the season is over or accomplish?
I just want to feel like I left everything out there that I did. They have that new rule or whatever, guys not going to the NFL. That was never really the goal. I just want to give what I can to my teammates, so even next year they can carry on what we left for them. I feel accomplished if I do that, leave them ready to go for next year.
And let me tell you, Grandpa Ken, you mentioned up there that you're a grandfather now. Congratulations. Haley has been so excited for you to come up here because she nails your name every time without fail. Couldn't been more excited for you to come up here because she loves to show off the fact that she has your last name down to a science.
That's because your SID, Scott Strassmeyer, took me through quite a few trainings in your first year in the conference, so we eventually got it right.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, congratulations on being a grandfather. You got great kids. You have a heck of a program. Good luck this year.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day here in Newport. We have a whole lot more to come. We're going to break down the rest of the West Division coming up next.
Oh, that ball is hit deep. Left field. Way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially Schreitenthal's over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Welcome back to American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. Thanks for tuning in with us. I'm Haley Otten alongside Andy Gresh. We've been talking a whole lot of the West Division, and we're going to keep that trend rolling here. We're going to break down 4 through 6, the teams picked by the media to finish in this year's poll. Andy, let's start off with the pick to finish 4th, the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. They're a 10-win team from last season, and the fact that they're picked to finish 4th this year, I think that speaks for itself how competitive this West Division is going to be.
No question about it. And Haley, you look at Philip Montgomery, who came to Tulsa with the background from Baylor, and they're 6-7 in 2015, and then as you mentioned, they're 10-3 last year. with a win in the Miami Beach Bowl. So not only are they taking steps forward, they're going out and winning football games and winning postseason games, which is how, to me, you really get on the map. And look, offensively, they were a wagon. I mean, they got to replace their quarterback, Dane Evans, which is going to be a tall task considering he is the all-time leading passer in school history. But, I mean, they're the first major college football team to have a 3,000-yard passer, 2 1,000-yard rushers, which is insane, and 2 1,000-yard receivers. You'd see that nowadays in spread and chuck and duck football that's out there. But when you have the ability to run the ball the way they do, on top of the way they throw it, it makes, I think Coach Montgomery would tell you, they got to get better. They've got to find a way to kind of knock down that point total a little bit to take care of themselves. But, you know, their 3 losses last year were to teams that won 29 combined football games. So this is a good group. We know offensively they should be able to get up to speed, and whether they're running it or they're throwing it, we know they're a difficult matchup across the board.
Now, Tulsa, competing in the West Division and their non-conference schedule, it is pretty difficult, but I think the neat thing about Tulsa's schedule is those tough games that they lost last year were on the road, and they get those guys at home this year. So how important is that going to be to kind of help them get through those tough stretches?
Well, I think it's big, and again, getting off to an early start, and you see, look, first night out, Thursday, August 31st, you're at Oklahoma State. That is a tough one. And then it kind of levels out a little bit until you get to the game against Navy. So they've got to make sure by September 30th it's on point, because then you're starting to get into those conference games. And then you see it's Houston, and then you're at UConn. Again, you never know what the weather is going to be like. And then, of course, they close out with arguably a murderer's row in Memphis, at USF, and then Temple. So a very difficult schedule. But again, if they can follow up, you go from 6-7 to 10-3. I don't know if you're going 13-0 necessarily, but if you're following it up with an 8-win season or a 9-win season, those are big steps forward for this program.
Yeah, and moving on, picked to finish 5th in this year's poll, the SMU Mustangs, led by Chad Morris. He's entering his 3rd season as the head coach. Now, Andy, Coach Morris has managed to double his win total each of the past 2 seasons. That's going to be difficult to do this year, but it certainly can be done. They have the talent, and a guy that's getting a whole lot of love heading into this year is wide receiver Cortland Sutton.
Well, and part of the reason Cortland Sutton is on the radar is because of the development of the young quarterback in Ben Hicks, who started the final 5 games. He's a young guy. He'll be a sophomore this year. You know, you mentioned Sutton, and there's some of the movement in the pocket there. You could see defensively they're getting better, but Cortland Sutton, look at the size. I mean, just the ability to separate. His size stands out. His ability to get away in short space. You can see there's real bulk on him as well. A big target to be able to throw the football to. And look, when you've got 9 starters returning on offense, including your starting quarterback, who's a young guy that you really like, who grew during those 5 games, it gives you hope. And look, in this league, I think, you know, even USF last year, they gave up a lot of touchdowns, but they can score. If you can score, you're going to have a chance to be able to compete and play a fun brand of football that's going to bring recruits.
It'll be exciting to see how SMU does this year in the West. And moving on, picked to finish 6th is the Tulane Green Wave, rather. They finished at 4-8 last season under Willie Fritz. Now, Andy, Willie Fritz, he has a very impressive coaching resume. He's proved that he can compete and that he can win and he can turn programs around at any level. They lost some close games last season, but you could see their improvement already in year 1. How confident are you that Coach Fritz is the guy to get it done?
Well, look, he can get it done, but I think it's still going to take some time before they can finally bring this thing home. And look, when you lead the conference in turnover ratio, that's going to win you some football games. And you can see the 3 losses by 7 points or fewer. And look, everywhere he's been, they've won football games. At Central Missouri, he won at a high level. At Sam Houston State, Casey Keeler's gone in there, and they've continued what Coach Fritz was able to build. And then Georgia Southern, he's the right guy for the job. Here's the thing. He's going to keep grinding. He's going to...
Like, you really deserved it, and you really earned it. Not only by what you did on the court, but by how you conducted yourself. And everybody in that game that you played against is also going to say, you deserve that win. Not only did you outplay us, but you might have even outclassed them or, you know, showed them that you were a good competitor.
Thanks for joining us live here at American Football Media Day. We're now going to send it over to Vern Lundquist, who is with the East Division head coaches.
Morning, isn't it? Yes, of course. Good morning, everybody. If we could ask you to take your seats. We will begin with our second panel discussion of the day. This time around, for the next 45 minutes, we will feature the East Division coaches. And I would like to introduce them, starting on the far end. For me, it's a mixture of old and new friends. First of all, from Central Florida, Scott Frost in his second year. From Cincinnati in his first year as a head coach, Luke Fickle. Next to Luke, making another go-around at UConn, is Randy Edsel. From East Carolina, Montgomery in his second year. When I mention old friends, the next guy is a longtime favorite of mine at USF. And Jeff Collins, another old friend who has got his first head coaching job, having been defensive coordinator at both Florida and Mississippi State most recently, where we became good friends. He's at Temple. I'm going to open this up later, but first we'll have a kind of a panel discussion. And fellas, I would ask you to interact with each other. We'll begin we'll start with Scott and come this way. But anytime you want to interject or disagree, we'll pretend that I'm Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. So, no, we're not going to come anywhere close to that. In his opening address this morning, Mike Oresco talked about the impact of television, the need for television to be supportive of the AAC and vice versa. I grew up in an era, I did my first college football telecast in 1974. And those were the days I was with the ABC affiliate and did ABC regional football. If you wanted to watch a football telecast on Saturday afternoon, you went to ABC. They were the only people who had the rights to do it. And we did regional telecasts. I was the number 4 guy. We had a pretty good lineup back then. Keith Jackson was the lead. Chris Schenkel was number 2. A guy named Al Michaels was number 3, and I was number 4. Well, the landscape has changed so much. The advent of the ESPN in '79 and the impact they've had. Now we've got representatives from CBS and ESPN here. And Scott, I'll start with you. Is the impact of television and the demands that television makes on collegiate athletic programs, is it too intrusive? Is it about right? Does it offer you guys marketing opportunities that otherwise wouldn't be available? I'd like for you to start, if you will.
That's a broad question, Vern.
I know. No specifics.
Listen, we live in a great country, a democracy and a free market country. I think there's a lot of demand for college football because it's such a special sport. Because of that demand, we get paid pretty well to do what we do.
Quite true.
And without the TV, that wouldn't happen. But everybody knows this. It's going to change, just like everything's changing. And I think our conference is trying to figure out how that's going to change and be at the forefront of that. And I think this conference is so strong. There's so many good programs and good coaches in this conference that we're going to have a good product week in and week out, and then people are going to want to see it.
Luke?
I mean, again, it is broad, but I think the thing for us in promoting our program, the more exposure we can have, and television does that. I mean, this is a digital age. I mean, these kids don't read nearly as much. They want to see everything. So what television has done for us is give us an opportunity to brand our program, to put it out there, to give these kids, because we're going to recruit a lot of different areas. We're not just going to recruit our own 300-mile radius, every one of us up here. So the ability for us to reach all those different kids, to get our program out there, to show them what we're all about, there's no better way, and I don't think it's going to change.
Randy?
Well, having been part of a program where 1A, television was huge in terms of helping to build the success that we had. And when we had that success, we were able to be seen on television and to get our program exposure and to be able to attract, more talented student athletes to our campus and to our program. So I think it is an advantage, and I think it's also an advantage when, we do play. I think that needs to change. I mean, I think that, if the games were scheduled and you had a set time, you'd see more people at the stadiums than what you would see. So I agree 100% with you, Vern. I think that is an issue, and I think it's always going to create an issue even moving forward.
Luke?
I haven't had a whole lot of experience of it because this is my first year, but I mean, I know that can be somewhat of an inconvenience, but to have the opportunity to be on, whether it's a 3:30 or on prime time on television, we're never going to change. What it can do for our programs and the national scheme of things, and we have kids from all over the country, so not just the ones that are local that might be able to see it. I think does a far more than it does in of the stands, the people in the crowd. But still, again, the product that we put, the more we engage our community, our university and things like that, that's still a part of our job to get them into the seats. Even if it is a little bit of an inconvenience, I still believe that being on television will far outweigh that.
Scotty, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think it's all about the way that we promote, our product. And we do need, some of the places that I've been before, we did need some time to promote our product. And one of the places I was at before, we had been in a situation where this happened to us, and this happened to us now. But our product in the Power 6 is that we do want to show stadiums full. We do want to show a packed house, and I do want to show the university that I'm working for and working with in the best light that we possibly can have. And if I can promote a game and it's set for months and months, to maybe say, let's say we had a Purple Rain game where we really pushed this Purple Rain game and we get a chance to be on television and push our product, it's going to be a much better product than we are if we have a game where we didn't push anything and we found out on Monday or Tuesday, like you say, and now we're trying to create something. Also, we don't think about some of the issues that comes with the finances of being able to get people to the games in such a short basis. So I really like the games that are scheduled. I much prefer playing games that we knew that were coming up on television. I don't mind playing on television, but we do want to put forth our best foot and our best effort because we are trying to transition our conference to the highest level.
Jeff?
Well, I think the big thing is this conference is relevant. So if you're in a program that's relevant and a conference that's relevant, you're going to be in the conversation of having a 6-day window. Some teams that aren't going to be in the national spotlight aren't going to have those opportunities to even be in that discussion. And I think it's a statement of what this conference is, these great coaches that are up here on the stage and the programs that have been built that were relevant across the college football landscape. And I think that resonates across the country.
Charlie remembers this, and you do as well. Boy, we were detested, we being CBS, and Mike Oresco, we became friends when he was a vice president at CBS. When we would choose LSU on a 6-day pick, and they knew that the game was going to be at 2:30 in Baton Rouge and not at night, oh boy, we got catcalls and booze on the way in because we cut down on their drinking time. Now,
but we loved that 2:30 game.
You did.
We loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Anyway, as I said, I'm growing older by the day, and I'm set in my ways, and I don't know that I'm going to change. But you guys have had to adjust in the way you interact with athletes. I'd like for each of you to just talk about, is social media a problem? Is it something that you can take advantage of, or does it intrude on the way you can keep your kids under control, your young men? Who wants to take a shot?
I'll take a shot. But when you talk about social media and you just look at the pressure on student athletes nowadays, you have social pressure, you have peer pressure, you have sexual pressure. And for us, social media is what drives our kids now. Because if you watch kids, either they're going to be Snapchat and they're going to be on Twitter. They don't look at Facebook anymore. It's everything. Anything that's new, one of them are going to invent it, and they're going to use that line of social media. So with what's happening, the kids always want to read what someone is saying about them, or even if they're not saying it about them, they're going to be read about someone else. But it's just that I always say social media is the downfall of society, because if you look at what's happening, everything that's been said is all on social media. But you still have to be able to make sure that you as a coach have an idea, not so much have an idea, but know what's going on with your kids. You have to do that. I got called out by a judge, And I just told her, we had a meeting, I said, you have no idea who I am before you ever made that statement. But we just knowing that with all the pressure that young people are facing nowadays, that as a coach, you have to be more than a coach to them.
How about anybody else?
I think it's a great way to build your brand. I'm the old guy, you know, in this league now, you know, and
Charlie just told me something I didn't know. I missed Facebook. Wow.
But, you know, the one thing is you got a chance to build your own brand, you know, in terms of your program and putting things out there that you can control. That's one thing about the social media. But I think the one thing when it comes to your program, you can do that. But with these kids, I mean, I think there's got to be education. It's just like there's anything else, because they could lose an opportunity that could be very important to them because of what they post and what they do. And so that just becomes, you know, part of the overall education that we as coaches, you know, have to have, you know, with our student athletes, you know, and that's just increased the amount of attention that we as head coaches have to pay to it, because ultimately it always comes back to us. So it's just added more things to our plate, but, you know, just like anything else, I think it's good, but the abuse of it is what you really worry about, and that's something as a head coach you have to be very cognizant of.
I think, yeah, we know it's a positive for our programs. Any type of attention we can put out there, we can kind of shape and do the things that we want to do. But for our own kids, I try to make sure they understand the whys. And I think for them, the big thing is I say, this is like a conscience. I know everything you put out there, you have control over, but you don't always have control over what somebody else puts out there or what they film or what they show of you. But what better way to say, this is the conscience, this is your conscience. If you don't want something out there, that's what you shouldn't be doing. So, you know, to me, it's all about how we look at it. We make sure that they understand they're accountable for all the things that they do, and anybody can be filmed. Anybody can put things out there at any point in time. So you have to understand that and what you represent, it's powerful.
And the big thing too, social media wise, you know, we talked about the perspective of our student athletes and what they're putting out there. But the other thing is branding to recruits, branding to your fan base. We have an outstanding social media department. Kevin Kopp, Morgan Sidfried, Tim and Scott, you know, are here. They do a phenomenal job, and it's free. You know, the kids are on social media constantly. As long as there's a Wi-Fi hotspot, most kids in the country are happy. So we're accessing that. We might not have the budget that some of the SEC schools do, that send out 8 million mailings or graphics or whatever, but on social media, whether it be Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is, we're able to reach those kids on a daily basis and even a minute-by-minute basis to brand, to market, and let them know what our product is, both as a school and as a conference.
Scott?
It's a great way to get our brand out there. Social media brings a lot of things to the table. Problem I have with social media for our kids is they lose a lot of social skills. You don't have to go up to a girl and ask her for a number anymore. You just find her on, you know, Twitter, Instagram. I think we have to do a good job of educating our guys so that a lot of the social skills and ability to type full sentences, not just little pieces, fragments of sentences. Social media brings a lot of good things with it, and there's a lot of challenges that come with it too.
Scotty?
You know, my biggest concern with it, I love it just for the reasons that these coaches have said. We can market, we can do a lot, and for us, it's very helpful because we're being able to market things for a low amount of money, which is very beneficial. But I feel like we may be losing some great kids, sophomore, junior, senior, and high school kids that we are eliminating because of their social media accounts. And we have to do that. You know, the hard part for me is that what if a kid has never been told, don't post this, don't do that. And the moment that he does it, now he's branded. And now this kid that maybe has made one mistake as a sophomore in high school doesn't get a chance to come play for us. Whereas we may have a kid from a different situation and a parent is all over that situation and telling them, don't post this, post that, and post this. And this kid may not be at the same level of character, the other kid that made a mistake, and now we're missing out on some of those kids. So I'm worried that the word about social media isn't getting out early enough. You know, it needs to be out and being coached and being taught in the middle school so that we get some of those kids that maybe have made one mistake. We don't eliminate them from the recruiting process. All about someone taking a picture with somebody with, alcohol, around or something as small as that. So I'm really, really concerned that we're starting to weed out some good kids because of one mistake on social media.
Well, I don't want to just linger on this topic, but do you as coaches have to monitor your student athletes? And isn't that a challenge?
We do.
Okay.
They have to follow every single account that we produce. They have to open up all of their accounts. There can be no private accounts. So we monitor our guys and keep them in check. And the big thing is we anticipate issues that might come up, and we educate them on the proper ways to handle themselves online, in the community, and all those things, so that they're prepared to handle it out in the real world.
Well, I think the thing is now, I mean, and I'm going to be different on this one, I can tell you that right now, but we don't monitor it because my expectations for those young men, when they come into your program, you're going to give them responsibility and you're going to hold them accountable. It's up to them. You educate them. If I have to sit there and monitor their social media platforms, I'm not going to be doing the things that I need to do to help them be the best they can be as a student, as a person, as an athlete. And sooner or later, some of this has to fall back on these kids, okay? We create a lot of our own problems as coaches by recruiting these kids way too early and offering these kids scholarships because now they get a big head and everybody tells them how good they are and everything else. And that's probably more where the problem lies than anything else. But once they come into our program, I'm not going to monitor that. If it comes to my attention, we'll deal with it. But there comes a point in time where most of these kids, they have to have, they have responsibility. They got to be held accountable for their actions. And if you educate them and they know it and they violate their responsibilities, that's on them. And that's what this country has kind of gotten away from, in my opinion. And I've seen it for a lot of years, 18 years now as a head coach. We got to get back to where it's holding these kids accountable, doing things the right way, and by offering kids when they're in 4th grade, 5th grade, all this stuff, that's ridiculous. They shouldn't be offered until after their junior year when you have 6 semester transcripts. We talk about education, we talk about all that, and we're offering kids scholarships when you don't even know where they are academically. Ridiculous.
Anybody else?
Just be careful what you put on Snapchat, Vern.
Yeah. Well, in my elderly view, the F word is no longer the worst 4-letter word in the English language. It now begins with an S, and it's S-E-N-D. And boy, once it's gone, and it's dangerous. I get the benefits. I don't know that I'll try to enjoy all the benefits, but anyway. To a different topic. I'm still angry that Facebook has come and gone. Charlie, you ruined my morning. Bill Hancock's here. We have a college football playoff now. It's an improvement, in my view, over the BCS. Is it what you all want, or would you like to see it expanded or tweaked in some way? Who wants to take a shot? Oh, come on.
I'll take it. I think it's great. My senior year of college was the last year before the BCS, and we had 2 undefeated teams that didn't get to play each other. The BCS improved that. Then you got the top 2 teams. But it can be arguable most years who the top teams are, or a lot of years. Luke and I got a chance to compete against each other in a 4-team playoff, the first one. I think that makes it better. I'd love to see it get to 8. If you can do that without putting too much of a burden on the players from a length of a standpoint, number of games that you play, I think 8's the right number personally. I don't know if it'll ever get there, but I'd like to see it eventually get to 8.
I think what it does is it just gives another platform. If you have 4, there's going to be a 5th or 6th team. We were fortunate enough to be that 4th team that was in the very first year and then ended up winning. So, oh, goodness, maybe if there was 8, maybe the 8th team would have an opportunity. What it does is it keeps football, the community, the talk about it, all the you know, the social medias, all the, you know, the talk shows, it gives the ability, even when the season's over, what about that fifth team? What about that? I don't know that there's any right way. I don't think it's going away. Whether it stays as 4, there's always going to be some other team, or the 5th team, the 6th team. But I think what it does is it just creates more interest in college football and everything that we're doing, and it was a huge benefit for us.
Randy?
Well, I mean, really in football, we're the only one that really doesn't have a full-blown playoff. And for a championship, when you look at the NCAA, I think if you're good enough to win your league, you should be involved in the playoff. You know, and I think who's to say, you know, certain years and things that are going to happen, but to me, I mean, it's great that they have 4 teams, but I'd like to see it more. But I think if you win your conference, you should be involved in the playoff. You shouldn't have it decided who those 4 best teams are. You know, you've already won your conference on the field, and if you did that, then to me, you deserve to be in a playoff.
Scotty?
Well, I think it's already, like some of these coaches said, it's weighted. I'd like to see more teams just because of the driving factor, like I think Luke or Scott said, on just how much coverage is happening. You're talking about recruiting, and these guys will tell you there's nothing better for a program than being in the college football playoffs. You know, but also what Coach Edsel just said, this conference, if you win this conference, it seems like you should have the right to go play against another conference best team. And I like that thought, you know, just because, you know, two teams came in at the early part of the year, ranked a certain level, played through the season, come out with 1 loss. Another, you know, team comes from this conference, plays through the conference, plays well, especially late. It'd be great to see us compete against those teams, and then let's trickle it down and find out who truly are the best teams. But I think that there are times now, and a lot of conversations now, where we get to 4 teams and we think, well, was this team really number 5? Was this team really number 6? You know, but the question is, when we do get to 8, are we going to have the conversations? Is this team really number 9, or is this team number 10?
Wow.
So you just you don't know where it stops, but you really like to see more games at the end to play to see who the best team, without putting a 16-game season on you know, guys that are not being paid professionally.
I can tell you this, being in some of the bowls, and I'm sure Charlie and some, we can, if you're not in the college playoff, I mean, we were in a Fiesta Bowl, I think 2 years ago, that wasn't a part of the college football playoffs, and there was none of the attention and some of the things that come along with the bowl game and the excitement, all the things about it, because of the college football playoffs. So a lot of the positives there are also some things that take away from some of the great bowl games that our kids have an opportunity to go to as well. So you can ask for all the benefits of saying maybe there's 8. Well, then there's probably a lot of other bowl games that aren't going to be, whether they're attended or even the media or even the attention that our kids would get from being there. I noticed that an incredible difference between being in that situation, going back to that same bowl game where there's an incredible amount of attention and things for our kids, then all of a sudden to realize it was about half as much or even less than that because of the playoff.
Mm. Charles?
Well, you know, I look at it, Vern, if a team in this conference was to run the table, and then you have a team in another conference lose 1 game, will a team in this conference get to the 4?
I would assume that all of you feel, and it's my assumption, that the American deserves a greater spot at the table. I mean, it's a struggle, I think, for this really, really good conference to earn the legitimate right that they have through the quality of their play to be in that conversation, but more than the conversation, to have a seat at the table.
I mean, because you hear it sometimes, well, a team can go lose 2 games, and they still in the conversation. Mm-hmm. And then if we have 1 loss in this conference, we're not in that conversation.
Jeff, anything?
I was going to say word for word what you said, Vern. You're my hero already, so, you know, it was good.
But it's not guaranteed winning your conference.
Right.
Last year, we didn't win the conference, but yet we were still in the championship. So is that right? Again, there's still a lot of things that they need to do. I mean, if you go undefeated in this conference, I don't think that there's any doubt that we all believe that you should have an opportunity.
Well, it's an ongoing
going undefeated in your season.
Right.
Is
I mean, my partner for the last 11 years, Gary Danielson, who, in my view, is as good as any college analyst out there. And boy, he will speak his mind. He believes strongly that you have to win your conference championship.
The factor, you know, your non-conference schedule. You know, these schedules are made so far in advance. You have no idea how good somebody's going to be.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you can get penalized. You might be playing a really good opponent, but they're having a bad year, you know, that year, or something's happened. And you don't have any control over that because it was scheduled so far in advance. But again, if you win your conference, at least you take care of your conference. You win that. You've beat the people there and you've won it. You deserve that opportunity.
I'd like to switch again because this is a very serious concern for all of you and all athletic programs in every university and college in the country and the NFL, is the relevance of injury and the publicity that has gotten in the last couple of years. How do you deal with a college football or high school football because of the potential serious nature of a concussion or an injury of that sort? Is it something you address in your staff or with your family? Or?
I believe we have an obligation. I got 5 boys, and I tell, whether it's youth football, whoever it is, I got 5 boys, and all of them will play or have the opportunity, will be encouraged to play the game of football. I think it is as safe as there is. You know, I think there's a far other things out there. If you want to worry about a 14-year NFL career that you might have some lingering effects, well, then that's a decision that they might have to make, hopefully some. But I know this, and I will weigh in on this thing every single day. My wife and I have talked about it. But I do believe as us leaders, we have an obligation to continue to make this game better in any way possible, safer in all the things that we do. You know, and getting out of that hard-headed mentality of saying, hey, it's old school football, it is what it is. No, we still.
Anybody else?
Yeah, you know, I think we have an obligation to teach and educate a parent like that. That's all we can do. We're going to teach and educate them on the methods that we're using to try to make sure that our, you know, that our sport is continuing to grow and trying to eliminate some of the injuries that we've had shown up. But, you know, my biggest concern is for people to understand how many kids we're actually saving with the discipline that these coaches come in and are saving so many young men. I'm one of them. From doing things that they may not necessarily need to be doing. And we need to continue to grow our sport and people to understand that it is. I'm a lot like Luke. I'm really passionate when it comes to people talking about they don't want their kids to play football. That's their opinion. That's their right. That's their children. I'm going to try to educate them on what we're trying to do to make sure that we tackle better, make sure that we carry the football in a position that we don't put our head down and do these different things, and they can do what they need to do. But I also feel obligated to try to help as many young student athletes to come through our program to help them as men, to help them become better parents, become better citizens. And that's what we have the ability to do and coach in our sport I've ever been around is football, and understand how you have to lean on the man next to you. So I do get a little bit aggravated when I hear people, you know, studies, but I'm also hurt by hearing that people that do play in the league 11, 12 years or 3 or 4 years, or a kid that gets hit where they're not taken care of. Not few and far between, but they are a lot more rare than the absolute kids that we're saving. I mean, we're saving a ton of kids, and we're giving them a skill set that they can take out into the general population and be successful for the rest of their lives.
Anybody else?
Well, the game of football, I think, is the greatest on the planet. We just had a senior retreat where we had 7 we shared around the fire pit at night. Every single kid comes from a different socioeconomic background, sizes, shapes, colors, and the bonds that they form through this great game, you can't replicate in real life. And so I think, you know, us having the obligation to make it a safer game, which the NCAA and, you know, the NFL have gone at great lengths all the way, as Luke said, to the youth football. But the thing that is consistent is the bonds that are formed that last a lifetime, the lessons that are learned playing this great game.
We have a few minutes left, and we thought we'd open it up for any questions that any of you might have for any of the 6. We've got a microphone that'll be floating around. Anybody have a question? Any topic? Right back there.
Coaches, this is for all of you. There are basically all new faces on this side of the division. How do you guys plan on game planning against one another once the time comes?
I'm not going to give away any secrets.
Nor is anybody else.
Wait and see what we see on film. We don't play each other first.
Oh, there you are. By the way, how you like Jeff's challenge? First year as the head coach, opening at Notre Dame, right? Have
Yes,
fun.
sir. Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, Jeff, and good luck with that.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else around?
Yeah, coaches. Earl Heath, California Crusader newspaper. For the new coaches in the league, what's the first thing you're looking at, the new coaches in the league that sharing as far as the college game?
Well, I know for us, I haven't studied a lot of these guys. I mean, people would always ask me, well, what do you think about the league and what do you think about these guys? Coming in, kind of, create the culture and do the things we need to do and put new systems in place, we've been focused on ourselves. So to really say that we've studied or done a lot of things with our opponents and things like that, that just hasn't been a focus for us. It's been more about, hey, we got to figure out who we are. We got to build ourselves from the inside out. And once we understand who we are, what we do, and how we do it, then we have a better opportunity to start, looking at these guys and figuring out the ways in which we'll, play against different opponents.
Charlie?
Well, I feel the same way because it's more about being concerned about myself. Because we're going to have a chance to play every opponent up here. So it's just making sure that I know who my team is, they know who my coaching staff is, and just build this football team.
Jeff?
The big thing is, the back-to-back 10-win seasons that Temple has had, back-to-back top 25 finishes, just making sure we understand the legacy and the culture that's been built in North Philadelphia over the last 10 years, salvaging the things that are really good and then finding a way to elevate our brand, elevate our game, while keeping the core of what has made Temple football so special.
Anybody else? Yeah, right here.
Tyler Grady with Night News. This is for Coach Strong. As a newcomer to this conference, when was the first time you heard of the Power 6 branding, and what are your thoughts on it now that you're here?
Well, I think last season when they was the first time I ever heard of it, and it's all about promoting the conference, and we know and understanding that there's some really good coaches up here on this podium as you look at us now, and there's some really good programs within this conference. So we know that we have to really build on it, and we have to put a product on the field that everyone's excited about. And it's about us filling up stadiums. It's about us making sure that our student athletes do things the right way and that we carry the brand the right way.
In the back.
Coach Collins, I'm Mark Miller with Sports View Radio and the Pennsylvania Sports Network. First of all, I want to say welcome to Philadelphia. I think it's a great town. It's a wonderful football town. Anyone who doesn't believe that, all you got to do is look what happened when College Game Day came to Philadelphia, and this past spring when they had to close down the Ben Franklin Parkway for the NFL draft. That was great. Could you talk to us a little bit, and for those who don't know, about the day that you had training over at the Philadelphia Art Museum?
I appreciate the public service announcement you gave for our program. I appreciate that. But obviously, Rocky is a big deal in the city of Philadelphia, and so we took our team this summer to the Art Museum to run the steps. But that was followed by a Max Power Clean, Max Squat Day, where our guys were dressed in Rocky robes and Clubber Lang robes, and the team got excited, they got hype, and really pushed for each other to set records in the weight room, and then we followed it up, at the iconic Philadelphia, Art Museum, where Hassan Reddick was picked 13th in the draft just a few weeks before. So we just want to replicate that moment, and it was a good branding opportunity, and I think it went viral, obviously through our great social media department as well. Appreciate that.
Couple more. Nobody? There's one back here. Nobody. The eyes are failing. Anybody over here? Well, appreciate all of you coming here. It's been my privilege to meet and interact with all of you guys. As I said, Some of you I knew before this week. Others I've got the chance to meet and interact with. You're a great group. This conference has terrific coaches, terrific leaders, and you need a spot in the playoffs. Bill, are you listening? Hope you get one. Thank you, fellas, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Vern, and to our East Division coaches for participating in that roundtable. We'll actually be joined here in a little bit by Vern Lundquist on the set. We'll chat with him. Now, Andy, a lot of new faces up on that stage here in the conference. What was your takeaway from that session?
Look, I think we kind of have an understanding of certain people's backgrounds, and you can almost hear the age difference a little bit with Randy Edsall and some of the other coaches, just in terms of, you know, he comes from, in a lot of ways, a Parcells type background where it's very much no nonsense. You heard his comments on social media. I don't manage it. Here's the expectations. You break the rule, here's what's going to happen to you. And, you know, for a guy like Luke Fickell walking into a situation at Cincinnati where they were down a little bit last year, but he clearly knows the state of Ohio. And heck, if he coaches long enough, he's got 5 boys, so he might have an offensive line at some point down the road. But what stands out to me is there's just a newness there for a lot of guys, and they've got to kind of break through. You know, Scott Frost was like that last year. I remember talking to him doing my radio show down here, and it was, okay, it's your first time, and there's a lot of the wide-eyed and looking around because you're now the head man in charge. The buck stops with you. Randy Edsall has been there and done it before. You know, even Scotty Montgomery now. I mean, you look at a lot of the guys on that stage. Scotty Montgomery's only been around for 1 year. He's one of the more tenured guys up there on that dais. So, you know, I think it's just really for some of them, it's getting their feet wet, understanding how to run their programs the way they want to, and then going out and executing it.
Well, it's definitely an interesting and exciting group of coaches joining this conference in the East Division. And coming up next, we're going to keep previewing the East. We've talked a lot about USF, but we're going to dive into some of these other teams that are going to be contenders in this year's conference race. Up next, we're going to be joined by UCF head coach Scott Frost and senior linebacker Shaquem Griffin. 2017 American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. Napa has your back. It doesn't take a whole lot of know-how to understand that most guys don't like shopping. So the next time you need auto parts, visit NapaOnline.com to select your store and reserve your parts online. So when you get to the store, your order is waiting for you. Just pay and get on with your day. Reserve online at NapaOnline.com. That's Napa know-how.
Oh, that ball is hit deep, left field, way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially Schreitenthal's over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle.
A big save.
A clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Welcome back here to American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. I'm Haley Outen alongside Andy Gresh. We're now joined here on the set, as you can see, from the East Division's UCF head coach Scott Frost and linebacker Shaquem Griffin. First of all, welcome to Newport, guys. Thanks for taking a few minutes to talk to us. Shaquem, your first time to Newport. I think you liked the lobster last night. How many did you have?
By the way, thank you for having me. And the lobster experience was amazing. And I had a game plan, first of all, before I came here.
Came in with a strategy.
Oh, definitely. The whole flight, I just thought about it. I wrote it down, you know, you can't do nothing without a game plan. My whole thing was, you know, one lobster at a time, you know, take my time, and when I walk over to get me some more, I burn calories. So I thought about it. So I'm gonna walk over, burn calories coming back, and then eat another lobster. So that was my whole game plan. I took my time, and even though we had the snacks and, you know, the entrees and stuff, I was just like, you know what, I don't need it. Let me focus on the lobster.
You've been hanging with the linemen, man. That's like a lineman move right there to have a strategy when it comes to sitting down and eating.
Sure, Coach likes that, though, the eat to burning calories ratio. But in all seriousness, you're an impressive talent returning to the league this year, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. How do you kind of sum up the experience you had last season on the field?
Well, my experience was just being blessed, having a coach like Scott Frost, being able to see the talent within me, and being able to wake up that dog that was just sitting for so long, and being able to give me the opportunity to play with my brother for my last time in college, well, for his last time in college. And you know what, that's a blessing. And, you know, a lot of people can ask for it, and for me to have the opportunity to have it, you know, I'm honestly just really blessed just to have the opportunity.
Shaquem, I'm curious to hear from you. You were a safety in high school. You look on paper and it says 6'1", 223, 225. People are thinking safety, it's listed as an outside linebacker. Just a little bit of the evolution of your game and maybe the evolution of defensive football nowadays in college, where, you know, outside linebackers used to be 6'3", 245 pounds. Now 6'1", 225, you're playing outside.
Yeah, I think the main thing is nowadays the game is changing. We know that the game is becoming more of a passing game, a passing league, and being able to evolve really, and being able to compete with, you know, slot receivers and running backs, and being able to have the speed to, you know, being able to guard one-on-one and then come back into the run fit. And obviously with my type, I'm aggressive, very aggressive. I never worry about weight. I never worry about how big the lineman was, anything, and being able to go against old linemen and get sacks, and being able to go to a slot receiver and being able to cover well, you know, I think that just shows the talent and everything I have and everything the coaches is teaching me as well. And mind you, being able to come from safety to linebacker, I had to learn, and I took everything that the coaches told me, the tips, and not only learning from my linebacker coach, I was even learning from the offensive side, and just being able to take everything in, because obviously you never know everything, and I'm always big on just whatever I can learn, whatever I can use, you know, I'm using it to my advantage, and, you know, that's why I have good coaching for.
Coach, through a coach's eyes, what makes this guy so good?
I think first is passion for football. Obviously, he's a smart guy. He picks things up, but you can't instill that kind of passion in someone. He's a dynamic athlete, and with his love for football and his athletic ability, makes a really good player.
Coach, I talked to you at this point last year. You were just taking over the program. Now you make it to a bowl game. You go from winless to a bowl game. How far has your program come from when you first walked in the door to walking in the doors here today for your second media day?
You know, I think we've come a long way, but you know, I'm kind of tired of getting patted on the back for going 6-6, to be honest with you, and I think our team feels that way. It's my job to make sure the program's headed in the right direction. I think we're on the right path, we're on the right road, and we're continually taking steps to get where we want to be. But I don't want anybody in our program to be happy with what we accomplished last year. There's more to be done, and this group of players that we're going to have this year has put in a lot of work to try to make sure we take more steps down that road.
Let me ask you, what did you learn about yourself now as a head football coach heading into year two? You've talked about the improvement that the team needs to make. How about yourself? When you self-scouted yourself, what did you learn, if anything, about yourself as being the guy?
I learned I can't eat as many lobsters as these young guys. I think we'll all be better in our roles this year. I'll be better. All these players will be better. Our coaching staff will be better. Everybody's more comfortable around each other and more comfortable with the roles that we play. And I think year two should lead to a lot of improvement because of everybody's familiarity with what their job is.
Now, Shaquem, we'll put you on the spot here for a second, but you've had one full year now with Coach Frost. What has it been like playing for him? How has he kind of taught you maybe a different way?
Just the cultural things of it, being able to start a new culture and being able to have that vibe it's not more of just players and coaches. It's more of a family vibe, and you know a lot of kids can ask for that, but it's not given to them. And I feel like as a team, as a player, we're blessed to have coaches like Coach Foster that actually come in the weight room and lift weights, and you watching your own coach almost outlift you, and you're like, man, you know what? I gotta get back into whenever you need to, just to talk about anything, and not just including just football, but you can talk about life and everything outside of football. You know, it's kind of good. It gives you that sense of comfort that you need to know that it's just not about football. You can come to your coaches about anything, and I remember one time I brought my nephew in, just trying on our helmets, and you know, it's amazing when you can bring in your own family members and they'll feel a part of the family. It's just not about football. You can bring your family around and everybody is just one family. And you know, that's good to have because it makes you want to play that much harder. You know, I'm not playing for my coach. I'm playing for my brothers. I'm playing for my family, and it makes you want to go even harder.
Shaquem, I got to ask you, secondary, gone. Your mates at linebacker, pretty much gone. What's the fine line for you of being a leader and pushing these guys, but also being that veteran on the field that can teach these guys at the same time?
Well, like you just said, being able to teach them, that's the whole thing. Not just being a person who just thinks about themselves. You know, as a leader and as a person, and just to describe me, I want to be there for my teammates. And being able to show them that, you know, if you're on the field, it's okay. You're going to make a mistake. You're not going to be perfect. No one's perfect. And I want the team to know that. And when we go into practice, I wanted them to have a common goal every practice. And for example, for me, I want to have 2 or 3 sacks. I want to be able to have pass breakups. I want the receivers to, you know, catch 8 out of 8 balls in practice because when it comes to the second nature, it comes natural. You know, my whole thing is I never had to set goals in the game. I knew when it came to the game, I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to go 100% and let the pads do the talking. You know, if you're not tired and sleepy after a game, it's simple to it. You learn in practice, and then you just execute in the game.
You mentioned family, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, not playing with your brother Shaquille this year. How has that kind of changed the dynamic for you on this team, just in terms of your relationships with other players?
Well, I feel like I learned a lot from my brother, and being that he's only 6 seconds older, he was the older brother, and I learned a lot from him, just from how he talked to me and talked to others on the team. And now that he's gone, I take tips from him, I learn from him, and just to put it out there, I remember when Richard Sherman called my brother and was just giving him tips about how important it was for him to talk to him about, you know, learning, because when the season starts, it's time to go. So learn as much as possible, and then I took that and learned and brought that back to UCF and was able to talk to the young guys about, you know what, learn as much as you can. It's okay to come with me to the film room. It's okay to talk to all the coaches. You don't have to always talk to your own position coach. You can talk to the defensive coordinator. You can talk to the DB coach. It get as much knowledge as possible, because when the season starts, we're going. And it's kind of cool to have my brother teach me, and I learn from him and give back to others, because when I'm gone, it's going to be a constant. It's got to be the same thing. When the young guys become older, they got to teach the next young guys, you know what, you take this, if you take these steps, you're going to become a great player and a great leader.
It seemed like the country really got to know the Griffin brothers last year. Your story of perseverance really captured the nation's attention. What did it mean to you to have your story out there?
It feels amazing. It feels great, and it makes me feel good inside to know that what I'm doing is beneficial. It's actually showing to everybody around the country and maybe the world that, you know what, when somebody tell me I can't do something, I take it upon myself. Instead of taking it a negative way, I just turn it into a positive. I show people that I can play, and it feels good to see that people is looking in, and is taking it all in, because at the end of the day, when you have somebody who tell you can't do something, it's up to you to prove them wrong. Just like, and not just football, if it's time for you to go to work and somebody come in the room and say, hey, you're not going to work, you got to look yourself in the mirror and tell them, I'm going to work. It's up to you.
Listen to him. He always has a lot to say.
You take the pressure off the head coach here. He doesn't have to answer questions about the quarterbacks or anything like that. That's good stuff.
Coach, we're going to take a look here at your upcoming schedule this season, but you mentioned it. You're not satisfied with 6 wins. You want to keep pushing the bar and getting to that next level. Some of those losses that came last year, they were super close, some heartbreakers there towards the end of the game. The experience of your team now going to maybe play a factor in those final seconds or that last quarter?
I think that's a natural progression for a team. When you haven't won, you put yourself in position to win, but sometimes you don't always get it all the way. Houston against Temple for sure, and weren't able to finish. Hopefully that's the difference this year. If we come together and everybody rallies around a common cause and we're all part of something that's bigger than ourselves, I think that's going to be the key to getting over the hump in some of those close games.
All right, well, we appreciate both of your time today, Shaquem and Coach. We wish you the best of luck this season. Thanks for joining us here on the set. We'll let you get back the rest of the people that are hungry
Appreciate
to talk
it,
to you.
guys. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Temple head coach Jeff Collins and Keith Kirkwood.
Shaking hands at the end of the game, win or lose.
Competing at the best ability, but also at the end of it saying, great race and great job, and can't wait to see you in finals.
Somewhere there's someone who is looking up to me.
So it's not just trying to win the game or the match, but trying to become better people.
Being able to give someone eye contact and really genuinely say good job.
No matter how high the competition is, you are all competing for the same thing and one common goal.
When a ref makes a call that you don't necessarily agree with or might cause a dispute on the field, and it's important to remember that, just to control the controllables.
Without sportsmanship, you really lose what the game is all about.
So sportsmanship is important because not only as a student athlete do I affect my team, but at the same time I'm affecting every single person in the stands. I'm affecting every single little girl that's coming to the volleyball game to watch me. And I think as student athletes, our reach is so far. We don't realize how much we impact other people.
At the end of a game, having a good game conversation with the opponent, because they put a lot of work into the game as you have, and to show that respect and acknowledgement of the work that you've both put in is a big part of sportsmanship.
You have to respect the other team, the officials, but obviously cheer on your team in a respectable manner.
And I represent not only the university, but I also represent the American Conference, and I want to put my best foot forward.
Be proud of who you are and what you stand for.
Having good sportsmanship allows you to walk away from a win feeling like you really deserved it and you really earned it, not only by what you did on the court, but by how you conducted yourself. And everybody in that game that you played against is also going to say, you deserve that win. Not only did you outplay us, but you might have even outclassed them or, showed them that you were a good competitor.
Welcome back to American Football Media Day. We're now joined on the set by first-year head coach Jeff Collins and Temple wide receiver Keith Kirkwood. Guys, thanks for taking some time to join us today. Now, Keith, you were just showing off this fancy ring. I don't know if we can get a close shot of this, but this thing is shiny. The defending conference champs. Now, Keith, as you head into your senior season, I know you experienced a single-digit jersey, and it was the number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
How can you sum up what that experience was like for you?
It's more like an honor and a privilege to be able to keep the legacy going, especially wearing the number 5. I think the guys previously who wore the number showed a lot of courage and a lot of heart and showed a lot of leadership to the younger guys and showed what it really means to be Temple tough. And I think throughout my coaches and players voting me to be a single-digit guy, it means a lot. And I'm very honored and very awarded and privileged to be able to wear it this year.
You had the chance to play for Matt Rule, and now your new head coach, Jeff Collins. He's kind of carried over some of these traditions, but added maybe his own flair or style to a lot of things at Temple. What was your first impression of Coach Collins when he arrived on campus? Say nice things.
It was very exciting. I mean, you could feel the energy and passion that Coach Collins brought as soon as the first day he came into that room. And this whole offseason, the whole off-season conditioning program, and what he's put into this program means a lot. And he's a players guy, and he loves his players, and that means a lot about a coach. And we respect him just like he respects us. And it's great to have him, and I'm so excited for this season.
How about this guy as a leader and an example? How easy is it to say, go be like him?
Absolutely. I mean, the big thing for me, I've always admired the single-digit tradition for the last 10 years. I wore number 5 in college, and I, fell in love with Keith Kirkwood and how he represents this program, how hard he works. It was just an honor not only to recognize him as one of the single-digit guys, but in a small way, an extension of myself, getting him the same jersey that I wore. But comes to work every single day, great attitude, great energy, great leader, and represents everything that we believe in this program.
What does Temple tough mean to you? What's your definition of it?
Everything, being physical, being able to impose your will on an opponent at any time, run game, pass game, playing great defense, all those things. Coming to work every single day with a great attitude, pushing yourself beyond your self-imposed limits, and finding ways to get better on a daily basis. And you look around in our locker room, the legacy that's been built over the last 10 years especially. As P.J. Walker, I could go on and on of the guys that have represented this program in the right way and left a legacy of back-to-back filling seasons, so it's exciting.
I know you kind of made the joke about the public service announcement on the question about how great a football town Philadelphia is, but it's one of the things that I had written down in that normally in the Northeast it's a pro town, But there's room for college football in Philadelphia now, and I think Temple has proven that over the years, not only the turnout for college game day, but just the continual buzz. I mean, sometimes in the Northeast markets, you rise up for a year or two and then people forget about it. I worked in Boston. People didn't even know there was a Heisman Trophy candidate, for God's sakes. But in Philly, it seems like the momentum is rolling here for Temple.
Absolutely. And, you know, you go out in the community. It's one thing the last 6 years being in the SEC, being recognized in small SEC towns. But you go across the city of Philadelphia and get recognized. You're sporting the T, and people see the brand. They know what it's all about. And, you know, I think College Game Day, Temple versus Notre Dame was one of the largest that's ever been held. And it's just exciting to keep that going.
You mentioned tradition of Philadelphia finally starting to figure out this college football stuff, but a big portion of that is the players who have paved the way for this program. And I know that's something important to you. And while you maybe haven't coached them, you welcome them back and you want to make them feel at home. Why is it important?
Right. Well, the big thing, you know, we've created a legends row in the locker room. So when the great players from the past come back to work out our facility, I want them to be treated like the legends that they are. The blood, sweat, and tears that they put into this program doesn't go unnoticed, and we want them to be a part of it. Hassan Reddick was out working out with the team. Matt Ioannidis, P.J. Walker spoke to the freshmen, let them know what this legacy is, what they've built. And, you know, it's a players-run culture of toughness, of physicality, and that's going to continue on North Broad Street.
Keith, Coach is known as the Minister of Mayhem.
Yes.
How has the Minister of Mayhem put his imprint on the players and this program?
I think it has helped us out a lot. I think we've made such great strides from last season to this year, and just the year starting and the season hasn't begun. Just the energy and the passion that every single player comes forward every day and works their tail off for us to be the best that we can. And I think last year and the years before, I don't think that we have succumbed to be the greatest Temple team ever. And I think that with the way we're going and the way the motivation is going, I think we'll definitely overcome our obstacles this year.
Well, Coach, I asked you about this yesterday, and I love it. The swag coordinator, you got swag all over you. You're bringing some energy to this football team. Thought process, why is it important to you? You have a DJ at practice, you have a swag coordinator, you have an analyst looking at numbers, Moneyball style. It's fantastic. What is it with all this energy that you're bringing? Why is it working?
Thing, you know, back-to-back 10-win seasons, you know, our goals, as Keith said, are even higher than that. What can we do to find an edge? We're known as being tough. We're known as being physical, being able to impose our will whenever we want to. But you also need to have a little identity, some swag to get it out there. Finding an edge with analytics and the creative ways that you can engage the players, engage recruits, engage the fan base. I think that's important in this day and age of college football. And just making sure that the kids know, the players know that we love them, we care about them. We're here to do everything we can to make their daily work, grind, whatever it may be, you know, to give them an edge. And, you know, I want the coaches to have more energy, more excitement, more enthusiasm, and we try to create as much chaos at practice. So when it comes fall Saturdays, you're ready for it. And if it takes a DJ spinning the tracks to create a little fog in there, to create a little pressure, we're going to do that, find any way possible.
Keith, how would you describe Coach Collins' swag?
I think he has one of the best swags, and I think no other guy has it like Coach Collins. I mean, he's a great guy himself, but his swag is completely different than what I've seen, and he loves gear, and I think we're going to be looking really fly on the field this year.
Haley, can we do the cups now, please?
Finally. I know I've been waiting for this moment all day long.
You know, if there was one coach that I thought I'd be able to sell the zipper tie to, like I got on right now, it would be Coach Collins. But this takes the cake, man.
So this right here, this is the swag chalice that has traveled all the way from Philadelphia here to Football Media Day in Newport, Rhode Island.
That is dope.
This is bling right here. This where does this sit, Coach? Where is this in your office?
It's in my
I'll let
office
you
behind.
have it back.
So it's, you know, everywhere we've gone the last couple of last 6 years, the strength coaches have made me one, and this showed up one day. Coach Feely and his staff created that, so I didn't know it was going to make its way up here, but yeah.
Well, the individual who created that is an artist. Myself, not so much, but we have these gifts for you here. We wanted to welcome you to the conference. So you have your official American swag chalice.
All right.
There you go.
I appreciate that.
Keith, we don't have one for you
go.
because it's a compliance violation.
He's the guy.
Keith, there you go.
That's my guy.
But we did. I wanted to make one for everybody, so we can share something. But here, this
I've
is
been waiting
Gresh's.
for mine all day. You kidding me? There we go.
This is why Gresh agreed to come do this with us here. So we all have our swag chalices. If you don't display it proudly in your office, I won't be offended.
Gotcha. Appreciate that.
That's the deal. But awesome. Thanks for being good sports, guys. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Best of luck this season. It's been a ton of fun getting to talk to you guys this week. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and Media Day will roll on. Stay with us here in Newport.
Oh, that ball is hit deep, left field, way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially Schreitenthal's over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle.
A big save.
A clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what?
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions.
While at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Welcome back to American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. I'm Haley Outen alongside Andy Gresh. Thanks for tuning in with us. We've been live here all morning long, and the coverage continues here. We've talked about the West Division, and we've broken down the top 3 teams picked to finish in the East. So now let's move on to the rest of the poll. Andy, let's talk number 4, Cincinnati. They're led by first-year head coach Luke Fickell, and he is the Ohio guy. Born there, raised there, played there, and now coaching there. Why is he the right fit for this job?
Well, as you mentioned, look, it's fertile recruiting ground in the state of Ohio and in Western Pennsylvania, so you want somebody who understands how to recruit to that. And you know, I'm a kid who spent the first 15 years of my life in Western PA, so I got to understand that culture of that football belt. It's West Virginia, it's Pennsylvania, and it's very much Ohio. And I think that, you know, everyone gets so focused on the horseshoe and the U and all that. Well, look, you know, there's another program in the state of Ohio, in Cincinnati, where you can go get a great education, play a high level of football. And Hayden Moore returns, so he's got a quarterback, so there's at least somewhere to be able to start. But it's really Luke Fickell being able to take ownership of a program for the first time. I know he was at Ohio State, and there was the bump up for a while of him getting to play the role of head coach, but maybe not be the head coach. Now it's Cincinnati, it's his ship. He gets to run it the way he wants to. I think we know they're going to play great defense based on his background, but let's not think that Urban Meyer didn't infect him as well, so that he can put some points on the board offensively. And again, when you got a quarterback like Hayden Moore returning, that's a good starting point. Fix everything else, but you got a quarterback, got something.
I mean, you mentioned points, and you mentioned a returning quarterback in Hayden Moore, but at Ohio State, this is a system that has used multiple quarterbacks in the past and had success. Do you think he kind of brings that with him at any point to Cincinnati?
Well, I do, and I also think that in terms of the recruiting wars, you can go to some of the kids who are like, hey, do you want to go there and be the third guy on the depth chart, or do you want to come here and have a chance to play football? And again, that's where the profile of the league, we've talked about the P6 all day long. It was a part of Commissioner Oresco's message at the beginning of the day that you come here, you play, you're going to get noticed. And you see Hayden Moore, for a football team that was very inconsistent last year, 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 250 passing yards per game. I got to think that is going to go up, up, and up. But here's the one thing that Luke Fickell's got. He can create competition. We know it's got to be built the right way. So he can go in there. If he wants to play a bunch of young guys, he can go play a bunch of young guys. He can mold this program the way he wants to, and I think that should get people around the Cincinnati program excited because he's got bling himself to be able to show he knows what he's doing.
Well, this was a team that was sharing a portion of the conference championship at least just a few years ago, so hopefully they'll find some success here under their new head coach. Moving on, picked to finish 5th in the East Division, East Carolina Pirates. They're led by second-year head coach Scotty Montgomery. Now, the Pirates, they got to get back to playing some Pirate football. They've had a tough couple of seasons. How do you think they do that this year?
Well, I think it's got to be rooted in defense, obviously. You got to be able to stop people or at least be able to slow them down. But it's time for ECU, quite honestly, to be able to grow up, and they got to win some tough football games. I mean, I think for a program like ECU, it's really going to come down to how many of those 3- and 5-point games do they have the ability to be able to win under Scotty Montgomery, who you mentioned is just entering into his second year. They got 5 starters returning on offense. They got 6 starters returning on defense. The thing for me is they got no one coming back on special teams. So now you're going to look at it, and that phase of the game costs you more football games. If you're playing people close, you better be good on special teams. And that's something I look at and focus on for ECU, that maybe that's a sneaky way for them to be able to create some field position and be able to hang into football games is by winning that third phase and see if the other two come along.
Well, and they have a couple of really good quarterbacks competing for that starting job. The returning quarterback for ECU, Gardner Minshew. But then we have Thomas Sirk, the Duke transfer, who Scotty Montgomery knows very well. He is now competing for that starting job, but wide receivers, the options to go to there. This is a university that is like breeding wide receivers. You have Justin Hardy from a couple years ago, Zay Jones last year, and now Jimmy Williams, who Coach Montgomery thinks will be the guy to emerge from this group this season.
Yeah, and I think that as great a story as Zay Jones was, there needs to be more diversity in that offense. And, you know, you can throw it dink and dunk, but you've got to have the ability to be able to crease people down the seam. You got to find guys to get down the field. And if you're going to get into those multiple wide receiver sets, it's nice to be able to say, hey, look at the numbers one guy was able to put up, but diversification is going to be the key to them offensively.
Well, and this is one team that I definitely want to take a look at the schedule for. This is arguably one of the toughest schedules I think the conference will see this year. There are truly no breaks in the schedule. I mean, they open up against James Madison, the NCAA FBS champion, and it does not get easier after that.
No, it doesn't. And James Madison, I did a bunch of their games last year. You know, my alma mater, URI, got smacked 84-7, and they had guys laying down on the goal line in the fourth quarter. They could have put 120 on them. James Madison is no joke. And then they got to go to West Virginia. We must ignite this couch. They're looking to keep the couch from being ignited. And then you get Virginia Tech, USF, and Temple, and then UCF. Good grief. That's just a brutal first half of the season. And then you got to go to Houston. You got to go to UConn in November. And, of course, the game against Memphis. So, Haley, you're exactly right. I think of all the teams that we've looked at today, this was the schedule that jumped out to me. You got a Big 12 team in there, an ACC team in there, and the FCS national champions who are going to look at you and say, hey, we've done it before. We can beat you in your place.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but certainly not least, let's talk about the UConn Huskies, picked to finish 6th under returning head coach Randy Edsall. Now, Coach Edsall, he's happy to be back in stores. Talked to him yesterday. He says he feels like he's at home. While he's coached this team before, the makeup of the league is different, and in essence, he kind of has to start over from scratch here.
Well, you know, in covering this team last year, offensively, they were just stagnant. And an athletic director, David Benedict, decided we need to move on from Bob Diaco. They bring back Randy Edsall, who immediately gave credibility to the football program in terms of the fan base. People will show up at Rensselaer Field this year because Randy Edsall is the coach. But there's Arkell Newsom, a lot that Ted Williams walked out of. I know it's football to baseball in terms of the analogy, but you kind of look around and go, okay, this is an iconic place. I know I'm playing somewhere special.
Yeah, what an experience that will be for those student athletes. And overall, just looking forward to a really competitive and a really interesting year here in the American Athletic Conference. And we're going to toss it to this feature with Vern Lundquist and our very own commissioner, Mike Oresco, who leads the charge here at the American Athletic Conference.
Mike came to CBS in 1996, and I was taking a cup of coffee at the time with Turner Broadcasting out of Atlanta. We had lost the NFL, and I stayed. I chose not to go to Fox. But after 1 year at CBS, I got an offer from Turner, and to do their primetime NBA game, their Sunday night football, and a lot of other things. So I opted to go. And we just found an instant friendship. And even more significant, I think, is that Sharon, his wife, and Nancy, my wife, became very, very close friends. And so, yes, Nancy and I think of Mike and Sharon not only as two of our best friends in television, but just overall.
It's like family. Vern, the Vern you see on the air is the Vern in real life. You know, broadcasting is a funny business. You know, and not everybody on the air is the same person. Vern is. You know, the warmth, the friendly. When I met him, it was like opening a bottle of champagne. It really was. It was great, and he's right. But Sharon, he loves Vern and Nancy, and you know, we've been out to Steamboat. My son went to Duke, and Vern would do Duke games, and we'd get together and have dinner. My son Brett idolizes Vern, and we just had a wonderful rapport from the very beginning.
Army-Navy is my favorite experience, but nothing will ever top for me, especially now that it's over, the Alabama-Auburn game in 2013. That was the famous kick six. And, Nick Saban argued to put a second back on the clock. After about 7 minutes, he got it, and Chris Davis returned a missed field goal, 109 yards, right? And within 12 hours, there were T-shirts on the Auburn campus that said, "Got a second, Nick?"
The answered prayer, though. That's
one
of his great calls. The answered prayer.
That's my favorite game.
The two big bowl games, UCF beating Baylor the way they did when nobody thought they had a chance. They were the biggest underdog in BCS history. And then Houston beating Oklahoma the way it did at the start of last year. You know, so dominant and such a great game. And, by the way, had a kick six in that game.
That's right.
They had a kick six, and it was one of the most exciting ones. And at the end of the kick, or the run, fell almost tripped over his own players. So the player went flying toward him, and he had to jump over him. Very exciting. And, you know, obviously the Louisville Houston game would rate high, too.
Sure.
And then it's hard to forget that Memphis-Ole Miss game. Because Ole Miss had beaten Alabama a few weeks before. They went ahead 14-0, and I thought, well, this is going to be a long afternoon. I'm there at the game. I'm near the Tiger. He was in the cage. And I'm standing there with Tom Bowen, the AD, and President Rudd, and I'm thinking this could be a long afternoon. Well, they come roaring back, and then they dominate the game, and that, I think, was the most seminal win in our conference's history because people said, whoa, you've got some good teams there. You know, so those are the games.
Mike Oresco, he does have photographic memory, but he's also got a passion for whatever his work is at the moment. And right now, it's the American Athletic Conference. He is so passionate about it, and he is my friend. He's also a visionary, and he's got a plan for this conference that has not come to fruition yet, but I don't have any doubt that it will. I think he's one of the handful of really intelligent, passionate conference commissioners in all of college athletics.
Okay. Well, thank you for the kind words. Coming from Vern, you know, from the bottom of my heart, it's just the most gratifying thing you can imagine hearing it from him. And I know he means it, but it's about these kids. And I'll close by saying that, and I appreciate those kind words by Vern, but what I've aimed to do here, I knew the difficulty we were in when all the realignment hit, and I knew what it meant, and I knew that it was going to be hard to hold this group together, but we had great presidents and ADs who felt that it was worth doing. But back of my mind, well, front of my mind was, got to keep giving these kids an opportunity. They're going to come to our school. They're not all going to go to Auburn or Alabama or Ohio State. They're coming to Temple. They're coming to Memphis. They're coming to Tulsa. You know, they're coming to SMU. Give them an opportunity to play at the highest level. I mean, give them a great experience. If you don't, you're letting them down. And they don't have to be Ohio State. I say to people, we're not the Big Ten. We don't have to be the Big Ten. But we can be, you know, I compare us to JetBlue or Southwest Airlines. If the British, if the Americans in the Revolution had gone straight at the British, the Revolution would have ended in a week. You got to do it differently. You got to hire coaches differently. You have to recruit differently. But these kids have fought. They have a chip on their shoulder. And when you see them succeed, it's the most gratifying thing in the world. Forget about all the money. Forget about all have egos. We want our conference to be in the forefront. We want to succeed. Personal acclaim if it comes. But the point is, in the end, I want those kids to have a great experience. And I think they're getting that in our conference. And it's a battle. You know, Mac Rhodes said to me, when he was our chair of AD, he said, you know, Mike, it's a battle every day, isn't it? I said, sure it is, to gain the respect and not be relegated, and, you know, that whole P5 divide has been very difficult for all of us. But, you know, we've done what we can, and now I think the future is bright, and, you know, people like Vern have believed in us, and Vern has always been encouraging. I mean, Vern, that's who he is, and he is encouraging, and he believes that an underdog ought to have an opportunity, and that's all you can ask for. Amen.
Well, we're now honored to be joined here on the set by the legendary Vern Lundquist. Vern, thanks so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk to us. What an event it has been here in Newport. What have you been most impressed with so far spending some time here at Media Day?
Well, we've gotten to spend a lot of time with Mike and Sharon, my wife Nancy and I. We are dear, dear friends of theirs. They have visited us in our home in Steamboat Springs. So to come, and we had dinners in New York and Baltimore and Duke and over the years. But to be invited back here for the first time, and both of us had been in Providence. We spent time in Boston. We've never been to Newport. I've been to Newport Beach, not quite the same. A little different. Yeah, kind of. So we've just, and they didn't give us a terribly heavy workload. So we've been able to take advantage of being here, and the weather's been amazing, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable.
You've been in this business for over 50 years, and now it's media days, Vern, that get coverage. I mean, the sport of college football has exploded in a way. Look, I played from 92 to 95 on the FCS level, and the amount of coverage and buzz there is now around college football is just amazing. Did you ever think when you got into this racket that we would be where we're at today in terms of the growth and the popularity of this sport?
No, when I got into television sports and was lucky enough to work my way up, I started in Austin, my hometown, did 1 year in San Antonio, and then 16 years in Dallas. And my aspiration was always, from the get-go, once I decided to make sports television a career, was to become a play-by-play guy. Well, I got my chance in 1974, but we were chatting about this today. Back then, if you wanted to watch college football, you watched on ABC because they had exclusive rights. And that lasted until 1982, when two universities, Georgia and Oklahoma, sued for their own television rights, and they won. And simultaneous with that came this thing called
something or other. Yeah, two other letters that we don't know.
I'll share a story with you. At the 1979 National Football League championship game for the West, it was in Los Angeles, the Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams, and Pete Rozelle threw this huge buffet dinner, and must have been 4,000 people in there. And an acquaintance of mine, he said, I've got a guy from Getty Oil that I would like to introduce you to. Brought him over, vice president of Getty Oil, and he said, I'd like your advice. We have been invited to spend $15 million to purchase this little thing back east in Connecticut called ESPN. What do you think? And I said, well, what's the intent? He said, well, it's a 24-hour-a-day sports channel. And I said, why would you do that? Well, yeah, he called me later and said, we did it. So.
And the rest is history, obviously.
But the changes, I mean, talking to the coaches today, social media and the impact it's had. And for old coots like me, I'm still catching up. Charlie Strong informed me that days of Facebook are long gone. I said, geez, I missed it. It came and went. I didn't know. But no, and the platforms, what you guys are doing right here, it's extraordinary. And it's a learning process for some of us who are of a certain age.
Oh, please. They throw you in any boat and you're good, my friend.
Well, Vern, we know you have some stops to make here momentarily, so we'll let you go. But thank you so much for joining us here on our live show, and thanks for moderating 2 great roundtables with the coaches. You guys talked about some interesting things up there. It was great.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Andy. Good luck to you both.
Thank you very much. Well, if you're tuning in with us on Facebook, we're going to take a quick break and start a new live stream. We've reached our max capacity with time, so stay with us on our Facebook page, and we'll keep it going here on YouTube as Media Day rolls on here in Newport. 2017 American Football Media Day presented by Napa Auto Parts. Napa has your back. It doesn't take a whole lot of know-how to understand that most guys don't like shopping. So the next time you need auto parts, visit NapaOnline.com to select your store and reserve your parts online. So when you get to the store, your order is waiting for you. Just pay and get on with your day. Reserve online at NapaOnline.com. That's Napa know-how.
Over to first, in time, double play, and that ends the game.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper.
Berlin, what are you most looking forward to? I know you made the decision to come back and play another year at SMU. Why was that so important to you?
There's a few reasons why. I think there are 2 main reasons. One of the main reasons, I get to graduate in December, get to walk across the stage and get to get my diploma from SMU. So I'm really excited about that. And then another reason is I get to play on one of the best SMU football teams we've had at SMU in years. And I say that very confidently because I've seen the talent. I know the talent that we have here. I know the commitment level that these young guys have put in for us to be successful, and no one's falling out of our standard, which is best. And I know if we compete every single day and get better, 1% better every single day, that we'll be successful in the long run.
Did you go through, as we see your highlight reel, which is, down the field, catching the football, good job of squatting in front of the goal line right there. Now we get some change of direction. Did you get info from the NFL? Did you operate with information and knowledge, or did you say, you know what, I want to come back for my teammates and for the degree?
A little bit of both. I have a great coach, Coach Morris, and Coach Morris let me find out all the information I needed to know whether it was beneficial for me to leave or whether it was things that people were saying for me not to leave. And so he laid everything out for me and my family and let me see what was positive, what wasn't positive, what wasn't negative, for me to move forward in my decision making on to leave. When like Coach Morris give me all that information, it showed me that no matter what I decided, he will be proud of me and help me through whichever side of the process I decide to go towards. So just moving forward, he definitely helped me with the process of understanding what was right and what would help me and what wouldn't help me. And he also showed me the benefits of being able to have that degree from SMU moving forward, because he always preaches to us and to the recruits that come in that the air is going to eventually get let out of football, and you're going to need something to fall back on. So why stop running a marathon, with a mile or 2 left to go? Just go ahead and finish it. So I'm right there, and it's huge.
Well, that is great advice. And you said it, this is going to be your best team yet since your time at SMU. How has this team taken that next step in the offseason? I
think it's a maturity aspect of us just growing. We have a lot of redshirt sophomores who are going to come in and be very impactful in this offense and defensively for us moving forward, and that's going to be really key for us. I think last year we thought we were ready, but we just didn't have the depth and maturity to be successful. We wouldn't have been able to handle that success, and it showed because there were a lot of games that we missed out on being successful because we just didn't know how to handle the situation. You know, it'll be a 6-3 game going to the third, or not scoring when we're supposed to score, going right into halftime and coming out of halftime, or giving up a touchdown right before half or right after half. Those are the moments that hurt us a lot, and we know what to expect, and we know what we need to do to be successful moving forward into this upcoming season.
You have a young quarterback in Ben Hicks, very young, but on the come, on the rise. How much has he grown? How much have you seen it? And how much of him settling into that role might have factored into your decision? Because you know you're going to get the football, but you got to have somebody who can pitch you the rock.
So Ben, the situation that Ben got thrown into was he knew that he wasn't ready, and a lot of us knew he wasn't ready. But our job was to, us older guys, we needed to nurture him into the role, and we couldn't. It was one of those things. He got threw right into the fire, but we had to be there for him to help him be comfortable. So whenever there was a play that needed to be made, we needed to make that play. There were no opportunities that we could just fall back on. Anytime that there was a time that we needed to make a play, we had to make a play for him to get his groove, feel comfortable, and he progressed the entire season. Everyone who watched us play knew that going throughout the season, we got better every single game, and it's because he started to feel comfortable in that role. And so for him to feel comfortable in that role, it ultimately helped the entire team be successful, and we saw that we were able to move forward each game. And this offseason, I've seen him grow so much, as not only on the field but off the field as a young leader. He's embodied that role that most quarterbacks get of being a leader for the offense, but he also pushes our defense to be successful, because he knows that we won't be successful if our defense doesn't push us every single day in practice, because those are the guys we're going to see, you know, this whole entire month of August and then going throughout the season. So he knows what it takes to be successful, and he's embodying it. He's taking the role and moving forward, and then also having competition in that room. We have 2 transfers who came in who are pushing him to be successful and pushing him to be the best that he can be, and ultimately that's only going to make our team better.
Now, you mentioned Coach Morris and how supportive he was throughout the NFL draft process. He's really turned this program around the past couple of years. What has been your favorite part about playing for Coach Morris?
I love the culture that Coach Morris brought to SMU. He embodies it 100%, and he has embodied it to where everyone that is a part of our program, whether it's in marketing, our film crew, the field staff, no matter what department you work in with our football program, you know what Coach Morris's culture is, and everyone has embodied it. And it's one of those things that the entire team has embodied it, and it not only helps us be successful on the field, but it helps us be successful off the field. And that's one thing I really love. And I think the biggest thing that we have from Coach Morris is being a family, and that's huge for us. And I know a lot of teams preach it, but I 100% agree that it's a family atmosphere there. And no matter if you're a transfer who went 4 years at a different school, if you come to SMU for that 1 year, you're gonna get treated like you've been there for 4 years, and you're gonna get treated like a brother. And we're gonna grind like a family. We're gonna hurt like a family, but it's such a family atmosphere from the top to the bottom.
Before I let you go, you were a 5-win team last year. You returned for your redshirt junior season. What would it mean to you to be able to get this team back to a bowl and compete for a West Division title?
Oh, it's huge. I've seen our team compete every single day, from winter workouts to summer workouts, and still they're back home right now getting it in, and I know they're back there grinding right now. It would be huge for myself to be able to walk away from SMU and say that I left there a lot better than how I found it. Be able to walk away from SMU with a conference championship under our belt, with a New Year's Six bowl win under our belt, and that not only helps SMU be successful, it also helps this conference move forward in the P6 campaign. And that's one thing that we really want to help one thing that I'm really excited about is to be able to be successful, not only for myself, my teammates, but for this conference moving forward to be the best. I mean, to be qualified or whatever they want to hear for us to be in that conversation of P6, because we have athletes in this entire conference, and I believe that this conference is very dominant, and we've shown it, night in, night out when we play against these Power 5 schools. We not only compete, we win these games. So I think this is going to be really exciting for us moving forward, for SMU and for the American Conference.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck this season, Cortland. You've been a fun player to watch these past couple of years. So I wish you the best of luck this season and in your future. Thanks so much.
Thanks so
Get back
much.
to SMU and start training, right?
Thank you.
All right, well, stick with us. Media Day rolls on. We'll be joined up next by Ryan Hall, the Director of Community Relations for the College Football Playoff.
Shaking hands at the end of the game, win or lose.
Competing at the best ability, but also at the end of it saying, great race and great.
Not just better people.
Being able to give someone eye contact and really genuinely say good job.
No matter how high the competition is, you are all competing for the same thing and one common goal.
When a ref makes a call that you don't necessarily agree with or might cause a dispute on the field, and it's important to remember that, just to control the controllables.
Without sportsmanship, you really lose what the game is all about.
So sportsmanship is important because not only as a student athlete do I affect my team, but at the same time I'm affecting every single person in the stands. I'm affecting every single little girl that's coming to the volleyball game to watch me. And I think as student athletes, our reach is so far. We don't realize how much we impact other people.
At the end of a game, you know, having a good game conversation with the opponent, because they put a lot of work into the game as you have, and to show that respect and acknowledgement of, you know, the work that you've both put in is a big part of sportsmanship.
You have to respect the other team, the officials, but obviously cheer on your team in a respectable manner.
And I represent not only the university, but I also represent the American Conference, and I want to put my best foot forward.
Be proud of who you are and what you stand for.
Having good sportsmanship allows you to walk away from a win feeling like you really deserved it and you really earned it, not only by what you did on the court, but by how you conducted yourself. And everybody in that game that you played against is also going to say, you deserve that win. Not only did you outplay us, but you might have even outclassed them or, you know, showed them that you were a good competitor.
Welcome back here live at American Football Media Day. We're now joined here on the set by Ryan Hall, the Director of Community Relations for the College Football Playoff. Ryan, thanks so much for taking it that you're overseeing through Donors Choice. What exactly are you doing with some of the conferences here?
Sure. Every conference, we partner with every conference and provide them money to make an impact in either the conference community where the headquarters are, or as you've done here, in each campus community as well. And so what DonorsChoose.org does, they are essentially a crowdfunding website just for teachers. And so anyone in the world can go on the site, find teachers' websites, and help them provide tools, resources, things for their students and for the teachers themselves. And so we are so blessed that the American has really taken the lead and gotten behind to kick off this year.
Yeah, so I know that the league is spending about $10,000 of that money today. It's being used for events for programs in the Rhode Island area, and two of those are Girls on the Run and the Olympic sports in Providence. Student athletes have been filling up some backpacks next door for them. I think there's some special guests in attendance from both of those groups here today. Have you had a chance to chat with them yet?
I did. Anytime you get a chance to meet teachers, especially those you've been able to provide for, it's awesome. You know, Media Day is its own animal itself, but then you look over and see two teachers wide-eyed, and so thankful that the American and the College Football Playoff Foundation were able to give to them and help their students. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and you see it right there, some of the players writing notes to these children that will be receiving these bags. These backpacks, rather, they are filled with a ton of conference gear, sunglasses, water bottles, headphones, and they're just getting some encouraging notes stuffed in those backpacks. It has to be a pretty cool experience for kids from these programs to get these gifts from college football players. They have to look up to these guys, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they have the best platform to shape teachers' lives and students' lives, and sometimes it's tough during the summer because teachers aren't quite ready for the new year, haven't put their wishes on that Donors Choose website. So to be able to find this one locally, especially with the Special Olympics, it was such a big deal, and we're so happy.
Yeah, so I know each of our institutions here in the American, all 12 schools, they get $10,000, I believe it is, to use in their areas through Donors Choice and help schools and teachers in their communities. But then the two teams that make it to the championship game, they get some bonus money, right?
That's right. It was. It's great to see the teachers there at the championship game. So we brought teachers from the communities of both schools last year, had them on the field. Big check opportunity. Everyone loves a big check, and it is another just opportunity to celebrate teachers, celebrate teaching across the country.
What has been the feedback that you've received from this program? I know it was a really neat opportunity watching that check be presented at Navy last year at the championship game, and a ton of teachers and schools in Annapolis received some help from that check. What is the reaction? Have you ever heard from one of the schools or the teachers and just gotten feedback?
All the time. It is wonderful. We receive thank you notes, calls all the times. teachers from different communities will send us gifts sometimes, and we want to send them back and say, no, we want to give you the gifts, but teachers are so underappreciated that anything we can do, especially on this platform, they love it and it's well received. So we do hear all the time from them.
Well, I just think it's really neat that schools are not only getting a chance to help teachers in schools, but they're getting a chance to do it in their communities and hopefully help out some causes and some schools that hit close to home. So Ryan, thanks so much for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about your program today and for hanging out with us here in Newport. It's been a blast, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
All right, coming up next, we're going to close out the show with none other than the Commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Oreska. Stay with us. But they were certainly a lot of work, but it's not a ton of meat that you get, but I hear that it's absolutely worth it.
Oh, believe me, it is.
Worth the sweat, worth the effort,
question.
all of that. Well, we had about 400 lobsters consumed last night and a record set by UCF with 10. And Commissioner, you had a chance to witness this go down. I know you were telling people about it. Were you like blown away by how many lobsters this gentleman ate?
There was an eyewitness to the Ailey, there was an eyewitness apparently to the fellow eating 10, which, boy, that's a record by maybe 5. I thought 5 was the record. And I think that table ate 10% of the overall lobster allotment. And we still ended up with a few extra, which we want to do every year. We don't want to run out and have anybody looking for a lobster. But it's a great event. Everybody loves it. Now, this fellow was big, too. He was a lineman, and he looked like it.
Yeah, I believe it was Aaron Evans from UCF. He's a big dude.
He's big, but, he's got a waist probably trimmer than mine. And then here he has big shoulders, It's just, I admire him. Boy, I'll never look like that.
Well, Commissioner, to see the student athletes react in that environment and the mingling that goes on as well. Kids from different schools talking to each other, getting to know each other. There's a real feel of camaraderie around the clam bake.
I think there is, Andy, and it's really important. This is a conference that still has to get to know each other. People have to get to know each other. We're a relatively new conference. We're a relatively new brand. And when you can get the kids together and you can get the coaches together and you can get the media here, and they love this event. You can see the enthusiasm for the clam bake especially. I think the clam bake is the highlight. I say, well, why bother to do the media day speech and everything else because everybody loves the clam bake so much. It's anticlimactic, as I said. But the truth is there's a real purpose to it. It creates camaraderie. I think we get better attendance because people enjoy this event so much. And, we start Sunday night. We do a little dinner for our bowl people and the special guests that we invite. We also really like to have the media play golf if they can on Monday, do something for them, and then they come to the clam bake. They support us. It's an event that it's unique. It has to be in a way because if we just had a hotel, ballroom somewhere, not going to work for us. I think the one thing, we're pretty ambitious. You see the P6 and all. But I think we know who we are, and we know that we're not going to attract thousands of people like the SEC, or we're not going to attract a crowd just because we're the Big 12 or the ACC. We have to do a little more work, and I think putting on an event like this not only creates friends for us, but people enjoy coming.
Yeah, everyone I've spoken to has certainly enjoyed themselves here, and I think they plan to keep coming back. But I know one thing that's been really special for you this week is having Vern Lundquist here, and he just moderated 2 really great roundtables, brought up some very interesting topics, and I think the coaches found it to be a really neat experience to talk to a legend like Vern. But he had a chance to pick their brain. What has it been like for you? What did it mean to you to have Vern come and moderate this event?
It means the world to me. Vern and I go back over 20 years. We're really close friends. Our families are close. His wife Nancy, my wife Sharon. We've been out to Vern's place in Steamboat. He visits us when he can. He and I were very close at CBS. Vern is just a wonderful guy. There's just no other way to describe him. I mean, I said in my speech, he is what he appears to be. I've known a lot of talent over the years, and they're often great guys. There's a lot of good guys. But Vern is one of the warmest, decent, most decent guys. And the Vern you see on the air is a Vern in private. That's who he is. And it's a thrill to have him here because, one, I hadn't really seen him that much the last few years because I've been commissioner and he's been still working at CBS. We keep in touch, definitely. And I get together with him, he and Nancy, Sharon and I, every Army-Navy game the night before. We always have a tradition of having dinner, and we try to get together after the game. He won't be doing the game this year. I don't think he'll be there this year. Down the road, I hope he attends it. I don't think he wants to get in the way of the talent, when you have somebody new doing the game. That's the kind of gracious person he is. But we also get together during the year once in a while, but I don't see him like I used to, And to have him here and to have him doing this, I wanted to make sure he had a great experience, because he is a legend. We took him around, he's gotten to see some of the mansions. We had lunch, Aaron and I had lunch with him, he and Nancy yesterday out at Castle Hill. We've been able to, have him meet a lot of people. I knew he would enjoy the clam bake, and I knew he would enjoy the dinner Sunday night because he knows so many people, and it's like a reunion. Chet Gladchuk goes way back with Vern because of Army, Navy, and even before. So it's been very gratifying to have him here. Plus, I knew he would be the star of the show. I knew that everybody would love seeing him, and he's a legendary figure. But we're happy to have Andy catch yesterday. You're doing a great job, Haley. It's been good. We've had more talent here, I think, than we've ever had.
Well, you've created a very unique event around this American Athletic Conference Football Media Day, Commissioner, and I thought your speech today nailed it. To me, I took away, it's time. It's time that everyone recognize what this conference is about. It's time to recognize what is going on in the American Athletic Conference. And it's more than just about football, even though that is the focus and the reason why we're here today. But to me, that was my takeaway. You put your flag in the ground and said, we're here, we've established ourselves, we play winning football, it's time for us to get ours as well. But you mentioned this is a critical year because when you put that flag in the ground, then people evaluate the results, and a lot of people are, I think, ready to back up your vision this season.
I hope so, Andy, and you're right. We are always going to be judged in a tougher manner than the other five. You can go 10 or 15 years and not have great results. And John Swofford was talking about the ACC period when they weren't, particularly good in football. And he said, I think you need to talk about that to see where you've been and how you're doing now. And look at what the ACC has become. The Big Ten went through a rough period when they weren't as competitive. And now with Urban Meyer and, Jim Harbaugh and others, they're doing extremely well. In our case, we came from, the ashes of realignment. It was a tough period 5 years ago. And look at where we are now. And we said to ourselves a few years ago, we had a breakout year. We had all those big wins, Memphis beating Ole Miss and Temple beating Penn State. And then, of course, the big bowl win by Houston against, Florida State. And we said, let's be bold about this. The P6 is, the Power Six is not a club that you got to get admittance to. And it was a media creation, the term. It's been a real difficult thing for us because it signifies a divide. So does that whole autonomy business. We can't crack autonomy right now. We know that. That's a legislative thing. And down the road, I hope we do. I think we have a chance. But the P5, that's going to be you and others and the fans. They're going to judge us. They're going to determine whether we're really a P5 or a P6. And what we did, a few years ago probably wouldn't have worked. We tried to gauge whether the media would support us, laugh at us, and the truth is they've supported us. They've said unofficial six-power conference, or they belong in the P6. We're seeing online apps put us in with the five. They're throwing our schedules in there. They're throwing our previews in there. It's a process, Andy. It's little by little by little, and yet we don't have a lot of time. We don't have 20 years to do this. We've got to do it. Look at what we've accomplished in just 5 years. It's remarkable. We've got a big TV negotiation coming up. I think this will help us. If we align ourselves with the P6 and people start thinking there's real credibility there, that'll help us with our TV deal. That'll further, it's like a chicken or the egg, that'll further reinforce the whole narrative about the P6. And then I hope down the road we'll find a legislative way to be in the autonomy conferences because we're big schools in big markets that people have heard of. And the last thing I would say about this, I don't know that I mentioned it in the speech, but 30 or 40 years ago, we probably couldn't have done this. You just couldn't have done it because, one, you didn't have the TV platforms that you have now and the media platforms. Look at the exposure we get to build a brand. Maybe the great wins we had wouldn't have gotten noticed 30 or 40 years ago. They wouldn't have been on TV or they would have been relegated. We couldn't have done what we've done without scholarship limits. If these schools could stockpile 200 scholarships, we couldn't get the players we need. As you know, we can find good players, and we don't have to get 5-star guys and 4-star guys. We can get 2 and 3 and coach them up, and they're terrific kids who have a chip on their shoulder and they want to compete. That's a big help. We probably just couldn't have done a lot of things. We get good coaches. We hire the best assistants in the country. I think our guys, our administrators are smart. They know we can't compete with the Big Ten for coaches. They maybe for the middle level guys, you know, in those schools. They also know that, you know, we couldn't adopt a TV strategy that said, oh, we got to play Saturday at 3:30. We got to play Saturday at 8 at night. Once in a while, we get those windows. We got one with the Temple Notre Dame game, and Temple almost upset Notre Dame. But for the most part, we have to play Thursday, Friday, and hope we can get the best Saturday slots we can. Well, it helps build our brand. We get great exposure. The other guys are not willing to do it. We're kind of like JetBlue or Southwest. You know, we have to be different in every respect. We can't hire a coach and pay him $7 or $8 million, but we can hire a Charlie Strong once in a while. We can hire the great assistants. So my feeling is our guys understand the formula. I think it's a formula that couldn't have worked 30 or 40 years ago, but it can work now. And I'm trying to convince the media that it's working. You know, today, look at the games we've won. Look at the teams we've beaten. Look at the teams we're scheduling. Just notice us. And I think that's part of this campaign. A marketing campaign can only get you so far. I mean, somebody once said, you know, there was a great beer, or there was a beer that was marketed brilliantly, but nobody liked the taste of it, so they didn't buy it, you know, once they tasted it. Well, if we win and we compete, which we've done, and somebody said to me the other day, this is a great campaign, and don't give it up even if you don't win all your games, or you know. And we're not going to win all our games. And this year is especially it's a tough year, but we've not been afraid to challenge ourselves. But if you look at our schedule, we've got some tough games. We got to go to Oklahoma State. We got to go to Michigan. We got to go to Ohio State. We got to go to TCU. The list go to Oklahoma. The list goes on. We may not win those games. You know, when you play 60% of your so-called P5 games on the road, it's tough to win them. You know, and then the big guys don't win them either. You know, when they go on the road, they typically don't win those games. And when they do win them, they get a lot of credit for it. So in our case, just compete. Just compete. Just show you belong on the same field. 5 years ago, nobody knew whether we did. Now they do. And because they do, our TV audiences are there. We had 32 games, over 1 million viewers the last 2 years. You know, you look at Ohio State, Tulsa. Tulsa hung with them. That game got 4.5 million viewers. You know, people understand now. When Temple played Notre Dame, I guarantee you, when the network saw that game 3 years ago or 4 years ago on the schedule, they said, oh, yeah, so what? You know, Notre Dame will go in, win 50-0. Well, look what happened. Temple built a program, and they were leading with a few minutes left and could easily have won the game, should have won the game, and showed the whole country that they could do it. 6 million viewers. Penn State, Ohio State the year before on the very same Saturday night didn't rate as well as that game did. That's what we can do if we put our minds to it.
Well, Commissioner Resco, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We're really looking forward to seeing what this league can accomplish this season, and wish you the best of luck in this P6 campaign. I'm loving the pin. It looks awesome.
Thanks, Haley. There are 2 of them. You know, I had a smaller one, and they put this one on.
Go bold.
I do what my guys tell me to do. Oh, that's the
there
smaller.
You go.
That's a good
smaller
one.
Both versions.
That one, Mark, jumps out at you more, I think, but this one is a little.
Well, that should be the commissioner's pin.
You know,
a nice big. You get the special pin. Everybody else, we get this one.
We can get you another one for the other lapel.
There we go. Yeah, exactly.
And thanks. I don't have a pin, so I got to get one for myself.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Haley.
Thanks
and we
so
appreciate what Haley does for us all year round. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, it's hard to believe, Andy, but that is a wrap here on this long day in Newport. It has been a great day. It has flown by. We have talked to so many great coaches and athletes and administrators from around the conference. Here's one final look at the 2017 preseason football media poll. USF picked to win the East, Memphis picked to win the West, and the Bulls picked overwhelmingly to be the overall champion. We appreciate your time tuning in with us today on both YouTube and Facebook, and we are really looking forward to college football season. On behalf of Andy Gresh and myself, have a good day, everybody.